All right, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, October 5th, 2021. Thank you for being with us here in City Hall or on the internet or on Charter Cable Channel 180. It is now 6 p.m., so we'll begin our monthly voting meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission. If business is not concluded by 8:15, there will be a 15-minute break, so we're going to see if we can make that deadline. We're going to go ahead and begin with a roll call, so if I could ask Clerk Spratman to call roll for us.
Davenport.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Link.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Denson.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, I believe we have some minutes for approval from Tuesday, September 7th, Tuesday, September 21st, and Friday, September 24th. To entertain a motion for approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion from Carol, second from Jesse. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to written communications. Do we have any written communications this
No, we
evening?
have none tonight.
All right, with no written communications, we're going to move towards citizen input. We have several opportunities for input from residents, input on the consent agenda, which on our agenda tonight are items 1 through 9, input on old business and new business, which are items 10 through 26, 10 through 25, input on the single zoning item, which is item 26, and then at the conclusion of the meeting, input on any item not on our agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
could you please remind members of the public that masks are required in this chamber?
Thank you. And it is the case in all of our unified government buildings that masks are required. So any member of the public in attendance tonight.
Yeah,
could-
there's a member in the back row, Mr. Mayor, in the back row of the audience without a mask on.
And I do believe we have some masks on the table in the hallway.
Could the officer please get the lady in the back a mask, please? She might not have one. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. So now is again that time for resident input on the consent agenda. So those are items 1 through 9. Any input tonight on items 1 through 9? And you'll have 3 minutes for all input. There will be a light on Clerk Spratlin's desk. Light will turn green when you begin speaking, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your time is up. All right. Would any commissioner like to remove an item from consent this evening? All right. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Parker, second from Commissioner Denson. Attorney Drake, could you read any ordinances, please?
Item 1 has an ordinance connected with it, an ordinance to amend the FY 2022 operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding if awarded from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources Recreational Trails Program for expenses related to rainbow forest access and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. All right, with a motion and a second for the consent agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, consent agenda is approved. All right, we're going to move on to old and new business, and again, those are items 10 through 25. So if anyone in attendance tonight would like to speak to items 10 through 25, now is that time. And again, you'll have 3 minutes for your opportunity. 10 through 25. Good evening.
Thank you.
Just let us know which item you're speaking to, your name and place of residence.
My name is Joan Roden. My residence is there. And I'm speaking to number 19, the Legislative Review Committee report recommendations on composition and mission of Human Relations Commission. Am I correct that it was Human Rights Commission, or did they change it to Human Relations from the last Legislative Review Committee? Or has it always
I believe
been?
human relations is what's on the agenda, ma'am.
Okay. Just wondered, you discussed Human Rights Commission, but it says Human Relations Commission on here. Is there a difference? I'm sorry, I don't know.
I believe the text embodies the potential functionality of the group.
Okay. The Human Relations Commission, I go back to the fact that there is a great deal of activity going on about hearing from the community, hearing from people who have something to say, who maybe feel like they don't have a platform to say it. So the Human Rights Committee and the Disparity Commission and the Ordinance for Anti-Discrimination and so forth indicates that you want to hear from the people in this community. As a matter of fact, the ordinance regarding unlawful discrimination says that you want to hear from where every community member and/or visitor belongs, can speak, and you want to hear them. So, I go back to the Athens-Clarke County Police Advisory Task Force that is being talked about. In this police report, there's a survey that was sent around, and there was a summary made of that survey in which 86% of the people surveyed said that they are not for the task force. So we're talking about a human relations commission. Last time I checked, I'm a human. So your relationship to the people, the 86% that did not get an opportunity to stand before you, but that was evidently not addressed, including 1,500 people who sent in information about not wanting a defunding of the police or a reimagining of the police. 1,500 people, but I did never see that those people's human relations were mentioned here. And the 500 people who indicated that they were not for a permanent homeless camp and their human relations were not adhered to or were not heard, and certainly weren't promoted in this body. And this says from the summary, overall, this is online on the ACC Gov site, overall, there were many sentiments expressed that there is no need for oversight, that creating an oversight body should not be done, and/or that the case has not been adequately made for the need for civilian oversight of policing in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Rhoden. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Evening. Good job.
My name is Ross Watson. I live at 430 Sandstone Drive in Cedar Creek. And I thank the mayor and the commissioners tonight for allowing me to come in and voice my opinion. I'd like to talk about three things. First one's number 11 on your agenda, which is regarding the fiber communication utility. I'm going to be real short on this. If this utility that's being invested by UGA has in any way and can in any way improve the safety of this community, then we, as the citizens of this community, want to be sure that we support that endeavor. Fiber optic communications, I don't know what it all entails, but if it enables us to improve the safety for the citizens, for the students, and for the visitors, that is our right, and that is your right as a government to provide that safety. Number 12, a little bit more on safety. SPLOST 2020 project. If I remember right, when this was marketed by the county, that it went into a lot of detail in the sessions that we attended about how that money was going to be spent. And I'd have to go back in my files. I'm glad I keep them, I can tell you that. But investment in these police vehicles is really important. We put all this money, $53 million, into greenways and bicycle paths, and we connected Winterville to Athens, and that's all good. But now the police have to have some help in being able to monitor what's going to be happening as we have increased these new paths of transportation under the SPLOST, okay? So I just want to be sure that if it said we were going to buy vehicles, we need to buy vehicles. I don't think you're allowed in the SPLOST, if you say this is what you're going to do, that you can go and spend money elsewhere. So you can check that out. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. And finally, number 17, alternative response teams. We don't have time to talk about, but I can't see commissioners as yourself wanting to put another level of decision-making between what's right and what's wrong, between the police and the final decision. And I see I have a red light, so I
Thank you,
thank you
Mr.
very
Watson.
much.
Appreciate it.
Hello, do I need to give this to somebody? I have copies for you too when I'm done.
Ma'am, if you just use your mask while speaking.
Oh, I have to use this? Okay,
Appreciate
sorry
it.
about that. It's hard enough to hear with the mask on, but that's cool. Okay, this is a letter from Krista.
Just
From-
need your place
What?
of residence and your
Oh.
name and the item you're speaking to.
I'm from Athens, Georgia, Susan Monteverde. So anyway, this is a note from Krista. She lives in Portland, Oregon. She emailed me this today. I'm just going to read it to you. If I have to stop, you'll be stopping her because it's all of her words, and I cut it as far as I could. Okay. A note from a Portland, Oregon resident. The Portland Loo has been a real moneymaker for Portland. Marketing public restrooms that look nicer than outhouse has become quite a business. The purpose is to provide a place for people to go to the bathroom in an attempt to keep crime down and to help avoid feces on the sidewalk. This is just a marketing ploy to sell these loos and a pipe dream because Seattle makes money on every single one. They license them to the manufacturer. These restrooms are infested with needles, feces, and at any given point, a person shooting heroin or smoking meth can be found. I am a 38-year-old single mom raising her son in Portland, Oregon. We have lived downtown for 7 years and watched the once beautiful city turn into a dangerous place where no longer walk alone in the dark, no longer leave the house without protection, or we will never use the Portland Loo. Allowing these public tin can bathrooms by itself is not the issue. The issue comes when there's very little rules, laws, and accountability for citizens. The Portland Loo's website claims it prevents crime. There's no real data to prove that, and as a resident who didn't own a car and lived downtown next to the very loo on the homepage of their website, I can tell you that any given time there was somebody shooting up inside and feces on the wall. This is also located near a park where us moms took our kids to play. There's a nice fountain and everybody could come and have fun. But when the loo came down, the dynamic of the park changed. While walking on the streets of Portland in any part of the cities, residents are able to play a game called human poop or dog poop. The loo has not made this game any less playable. The questions for, she had a bunch of questions for Athens, I'm going to skip those. The concept of the loo works as poorly as the garage receptacles Portland spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on to help prevent needles being left on the sidewalks. In 2019, within just 9 blocks, Portland Clean and Safe reported picking up over 40,000 needles. The loo has attracted the people discarding those needles on the sidewalks to the areas where the loos are located. What people have failed to recognize is that when you're a user and you shoot up, you don't think, boy, I need to go drop this off a couple blocks later over there. We still have crime, if not more crime, than when these loos are, where these loos are located. Any other data is being used to manipulate and sell loos to your city. After all, homeless is a business and Portland has become a professional in the business. Is Athens' purpose to bring crime to locations with low crime? Is Athens looking to get into the homeless business as well? The Portland Loo has not helped tax-paying citizens of Portland, Oregon. These spaces have only harmed us and the very people they are pretending to serve. The Loo is just Another virtue signal that wastes money and encourages drug users to stay using.
Thank you, Ms.
Legalizing
Monteverde.
small amounts of drugs in Portland didn't make any impact on the safety or the effectiveness of the loo. It has not been effective. It will continue to remain ineffective.
Thank you for coming down this evening.
Compassion. Please do not let your city turn into Portland. Your residents and homeless and your community are begging you.
Evening.
Hey, good evening. I'm Joe Block. I live on Millage Terrace, and I just thought I'd share a little bit further about Krista. My brother lives in Portland. It has changed dramatically, and I think we need to just, as I said, on the homeless encampment, we needed to go slower, and we needed to think it through. I think maybe if you were able to leverage and use some of your consulting dollars and go to Portland and see what is happening, we might be a little bit less quick to pull the trigger. Krista's 38. She's got an 11-year-old. She lives in Portland. She lives actually very close to the downtown bathroom site. And unfortunately, what she sees with her child is just not what we need to see. So we need to be cautious. We need to understand exactly what we're doing and not make Athens a fearful place. I do agree that we need to take care of our homeless people because that's our obligation. We've been given a lot. To much that has been given, we need to give back. So I totally agree with some of the things that we want to try to do. But I think when we make it a beacon for people to come, it only runs the risk for us to be similar to Krista and her child situation. So it hasn't really worked well in a lot of places that I've read up on, and I have read like Austin and other cities. We just need to be cautious. And I ask you to really think through this. Take some of those consulting dollars, go out there, talk to Krista. I've got her story, and I've also got a website question that they asked. And of the 200 Portland residents, would you ever use the downtown bathroom? 94% said no, absolutely not. Another few said, just jokingly, only if I wanted to get HIV or hepatitis. So I think we just need to be cautious and understand exactly what we're getting into. These are some of the results here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else like to speak to items 10 through 25? You go, Judd.
Sandra Metz, Athens-Clarke County. I'd like to speak to you first to remind all of you that you are representing everybody who lives in Athens-Clarke County, not just the people elected you. You're here to represent every one of us. Item 11, referring to the more security cameras. I agree with Ross Watson about the fact how can cameras be less good for us here in the city, make us safe. You're going to have the loos that are going to be under surveillance of a security camera. Now, one of your commissioners has put out there that you're against it because you never want any police state surveillance. But then they preface it, secondly, we want to put some pressure on UGA so they'll participate in demands of Linden Town Project, Below Baldwin, and other efforts to recognize and redress. UGA is the largest employer and has lots and lots of money. So we're going to push back till they concede to us and we give them the camera so we can get their money. Following up on the loo, here's a picture of the loo. And notice, I'm going to pass this around to you guys. There's a needle dispensary in there. It looks like very little is going in there potty-wise. It's made for other activity. And this is what she says about the loo that when she was in there taking that picture. Today. There are no feces, but I saw multiple people go in and out, and they're in there for a long time. This is the loo on the homepage of the Portland Loo website. It is in Jameson Square next to a large residential community. This one is cleaner than most. Some dude has currently set up shop and has been there now over 15 minutes. He's not using the toilet. Notice the needle dispensary over the toilet. This is real time. I took these pictures on my way home. Once again, we position cameras to make sure anybody using that loo is safe. If we had more cameras, maybe that young lady's rapist would have been caught the other day. That gentleman obviously was not one of our homeless, because our homeless people here in Athens-Clarke County know each other. That was one of the ones that was brought here because of the homeless encampment potential to bring others in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming this evening. Anyone else like to speak to items 10 through 25?
I don't think SPLOST 218 is what they had in mind with the Portland Lou and downtown Athens.
Last call for items 10 through 25.
Good afternoon, Mayor. My name's Michael Smith, 147 Bryan Street, 30601. Speaking about item number 13, the Classic Center, I guess the bond is at 54 million now. It was floated at about 15 and 20, or 20 in 2018. Then it went up to about 28 million, then it went up to 33 million. And I think now it's at 54 million. So if it's put back at 34 million, I think that's already been resolved by the mayor and commission, so I don't have any comment on that. Previously, I think there was that idea. So on the $20 million additional money for a parking structure, first of all, I'd really put a moratorium on any bonds for about 90 days and really vet the bond market. It's changing. And also there could be opportunity to do a lot of local good by allowing low-cost fractionalized shares of bonds to be purchased by the Athens community. I think the last SPLOST bond, it was a $1,500 minimum for one share, I think. So I would not do the bond tonight. I definitely would not do any creative funding, taking it out of the SPLOST pool, like with the use of tax allocation district funds. So that's very important and would violate the spirit of the tax allocation district committee, mayor and the commission agreements. And then I would really consider, if you wanted to switch funds around, is take $20 million from the judicial project, put it into the parking project, but I'd make it a downtown authority project, and I would use the profit from renting out the spaces to fund entrepreneurial activities for marginalized communities. So what I'm saying is I would do almost anything than what might be done tonight. It's a bad deal. However, we can move forward if we think in reality, not in a centralized way that only awards the wealthiest people in Athens. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else here to speak to items 10 through 25? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and take up old business. Item 10 is the transfer of 20 mobile data terminals and vehicle computer mounts to the City of Thompson Police Department. Entertain a motion or any discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport, I have a second from Commissioner Thornton. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we're moving on to item 11. 11 is encroachment on multiple streets right-of-way for fiber communication utility by the University of Georgia. Entertain a motion or any discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Wright, a second from Commissioner Thornton. Any input from the first or the seconder?
No.
All right, Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I'm going to be voting no on this, and I plan to vote no on pretty much any item that asks for an agreement with UGA until we get some greater cooperation from them and some better response regarding their impact on our community when it comes to living wages, when it comes to affordable housing, a number of issues, redress for the people of Linden Town. I feel like UGA has betrayed the trust of this community on many, many levels. And until we have some concerted evidence of concern for the well-being of our greater community, I'll be voting no on items. And this item in particular, it purports to be a public safety issue. I don't really have a whole lot of opposition to the idea of cameras, safety cameras. I have some mixed feelings, but this is not about a public safety issue. It's about the relationship between UGA and this greater community in general.
Thanks, Commissioner Link. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I'm also going to be voting no on this item for similar reasons. I think particularly related to the issue of right-of-way. As a member of the Justice Memory team, we have reached out to the university to request use of their right-of-way for the Lennon Walk of Recognition and have been ignored. And I think until we establish a relationship of reciprocal respect, along the same lines that Commissioner Link brought up, but, you know, with regards to the very specific issues like these, I don't feel comfortable voting yes on this item. Also related to the issue of public safety, one of the speakers tonight invoked a sexual assault that happened on campus, and in some of the agenda, some of the documents that were provided to us regarding background on this agenda item, other crimes like shootings had been referenced in places where cameras already exist, because the issue is that to combat crime effectively, the cause need to be addressed and not simply buying more cameras so that we can catch the people after they've already hurt other people. So I'm also not inclined to continue to enable community resources to be spent on being reactive rather than proactive in addressing crime in our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Houle.
Yeah, I do want to speak to the public safety team that we have. The university's police department and our police department work very well together. And this, I understand that you guys have different opinions of different topics that's on the, except what's on the agenda right now. And I think that we should address those. And I think that it would be beneficial if we not try to deter a community, greater well-being for our community that these surveillance cameras can have, as well as the fiber optics that we can have for the smart things that we do traffic control-wise that can benefit the community as well. So this is an example of the university trying to work to improve some safety issues that's in our community, and I hope that we have enough commissioners that see that and will support it.
Thanks, Commissioner Wright. Commissioner Houle.
Thanks, Mayor Gertz. Yeah, I think where I'm at on this particular agenda item is that it seems like whenever the university approaches the unified government for something and asks us to jump, essentially, we just ask how high. We are struggling to get things that this community has prioritized done on time because staff is overburdened, but these things happen quickly and expeditiously to meet the university's needs, despite a lack of collaboration from the university on the things that we invite them to participate in. And so I don't want this to become a battle over every little thing, but I think it's important that we make clear that the university needs to be collaborating as a two-way street and not just demanding we drop everything to help them make things happen when they want it. And there are some concerns I have about the infrastructure itself, which is ultimately why I feel like this is an appropriate place to speak up about it, because I think that there's a problem around just increasing surveillance as our response to how we're going to make a safer community when there's a lot of other things I honestly think the university could be proactively investing in or joining us and other nonprofit partners in the community around to make a safer community, to support bystander intervention programs more robustly, to help us invest in public transit, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't plan to support this. I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
That would be a substitute motion, I think?
Substitute motion, yeah.
Substitute motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Thornton.
I will just go back before the motion was made and will say that I'm definitely going to support this. Commissioner Houle suggested that the university should be more collaborative with us, and I agree, but it's a two-way street that we have a role also in collaboration. The other thing is, I would not want to use some issues where safety, I disagree. I do think that cameras do present some safety. And as everybody knows, I'm not a downtown person. So this is not about me, what I feel personally. I think that safety should be our number one issue in almost everything that we do. And I am a little concerned that Lennon-Town, I 100% support Lennon-Town. And I have talked to one or two people who are connected with Lennon-Town. And I think to use Lennon-Town as a noose, I think that is wrong. These are two separate agendas, and they should be dealt with it separately. So let me go on record. I'm going to support it. I don't think that connecting Lennon-Town to this is right, and I'm doing it for safety. And I do agree we need more collaboration, but it's a two-way street, and we have a role also.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further input before we move to vote?
Mr.
Commissioner
Mayor,
Edwards.
I move to table this item for the next voting session.
Can you?
We've already got two motions on the
Yeah.
floor.
So I don't know that we can have a substitute for a substitute. We may have to vote.
Isn't a motion to table an item always in order?
I
Trying
thought
to
you
table
could-
this agenda item.
I thought you could only have two motions in order, but I don't have my copies of Robert Rules of Order. I can look it up real quick.
I believe it's two. I don't have mine in front of me, but we'll manage these two motions, and then if neither fails, we can move to a third.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that, but if we could just have a moment, I would hate to deny this thing when perhaps we could just delay it and kind of work out some of this stuff.
I'll give Attorney Drake a moment to do some light research so we can verify process.
Could I ask if Commissioner Evans would be interested in elaborating on what you would like to table it to do in that meantime?
Well, yeah, I'll speak to it if it's
Okay,
in
yeah.
order, for sure.
Since to lay on the table, this motion takes precedence over all subsidiary motions and of such incidental questions as are pending at the time it is made. It yields to privileged motions and such motions as are incidental to itself. It is undebatable and cannot have a subsidiary motion applied to it. It may be applied to any main motion, to any question of privilege or of the day after it is before the assembly for consideration. So it indicates to me that you could consider a motion to table.
Thank you. Can I get a
Would you like to
second?
speak further?
Second from,
All right, so there's a table from Commissioner Edwards, second to that table from Myers.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's not debatable, it says.
Huh?
It's not debatable.
When I was reading this, it said it's not debatable.
So we just vote.
You just vote on it.
So,
We just
all
vote.
right, so Clerk Spratlin, if you do a roll call beginning with Commissioner Edwards for the table.
That's the table to what date?
Table to a
Next-
date certain to the next voting
next
meeting.
voting meeting.
Edwards,
Aye.
Myers,
Aye.
Thornton,
No.
Amby,
No.
Davenport,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Blink,
Yes.
Wright,
No?
Denson,
Yes.
Poole.
Yes.
6 yes, 4 no.
All right, so we will hear this next month. All right, moving on to item 12. This is public safety vehicles and equipment from SPLOST 2020, Project 8. Manager Williams has provided some information about the array of vehicles available that I think Central Services Director Andrew Saunders did a great job assembling. Would anyone like to make a motion or speak to the item?
I'll make a motion that we go with the newest staff recommendation on this item, unless fellow commissioners haven't had time to digest it. It did come to us later in the timeframe.
second it.
So
If you're making a motion.
I'm making a motion so that we can have some discussion.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Myers. Do you want to provide any comment?
No, I just think that if commissioners have had time to see the newest staff recommendation on this, that we should move forward with it so that the inventory that we're trying to purchase can be ordered and then supplied so that the equipment that is needed, again, for safety in our community has been purchased.
Thanks. As Seconder, Commissioner Myers, would like to speak to the item?
Yeah, I appreciate the work that staff did on this. I understand the concerns about SUVs. I also spent way too much time looking into the Ford Police Interceptor and learning that it had many other features besides the ability to go really fast, and features that related to safety. And I'm not sure which of the features, the ones we're getting, will have, but there are some blind spot and rear camera on demand and pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection that I was pleased with to see. I don't think we're moving our whole fleet to SUVs because I anticipate that by next year or the year after, we'll be looking at the electric vehicles that are coming on board. I also like this because we are also moving with this to take the non-patrol cars. I believe that's correct. Manager Williams can correct me if I'm wrong in there, and take the non-patrol cars and sort of take them off the list as we look into using some other SPLOST funds to look for cars, vehicles for those items. Is that correct? My understanding?
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct.
And so, therefore, I'm ready to move this on because I know that there's going to be more down the line. There's going to be another movement in a year, in 6 months, and we're going to keep going through this. So I hopefully will learn each time, and we'll see more of what's available.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Thornton.
I am supporting this, even though we've gone through a lot of changes, and I appreciate, again, staff, like Commissioner Myers said, putting in the devil's in the detail. I was receiving information from different sources about police vehicles, so I didn't really do as much in-depth study from what Commissioner Myers is saying, but I think she summed it up well. I think that we need to move forward, and this will roll back around again sooner than later, so I do support this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I want to thank staff for putting together this revised version. I think it takes some important and good steps, especially around sustainability. I appreciate the move to suggest tabling the admin vehicles, so we're at least not replacing administrative vehicles that don't need to be pursuit rated and are currently smaller things like Toyota Priuses to explore other options that might look more like those models. At the same time, I continue to have concerns about us moving forward with a proposal that will change such a dramatic chunk of our fleet to vehicles that are essentially double the size. There's no question that we need to replace vehicles. I mean, I've heard loud and clear from officers that, we have vehicles that are falling apart, AC's not working and stuff. So I would like us to diligently and expeditiously find a better way forward. But right now, it feels like we're getting a product we don't want under the premise that this is all the market can offer. And I think we'd do well to have a longer, more thoughtful discussion about what options are available before we essentially lock ourselves into much larger vehicles for the next decade plus. So with that in mind, I'd like to make a substitute motion for the CDO that I shared with y'all in advance of this weekend. And since that was sent out before staff gave us this new version, I'd like to add the language captured in section 8C of the staff recommendation to my CDO. So that's the part about getting the
8C. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All right. A substitute motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Link.
And if I may, just for people who are trying to follow along at home, section 8C is the part that talks about the Sustainability Office and Central Services and ACCPD bringing forward a proposal at the November 2nd voting meeting to allocate money to getting a renewable energy project to jumpstart EV deployment.
Commissioner Davenport.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So yes, I briefly went over what staff has proposed, recommended, and I will be accepting, agreeing to that. And I just wanted just to mention the fact that like a lot of people are concerned about the safety of these vehicles. These vehicles have been tested by the Los Angeles Police Department as well as the Michigan State Patrol, who have for decades been rating these vehicles. These vehicles are not the standard vehicles that you get from Ford, Akins Ford, or Toyota of Athens or whatnot. These vehicles are enhanced for safety and durability as well as efficiency. So, and you know, the study that Michigan State Patrol as well as Los Angeles Police Department, you know, they test all types of cars, and the cars that the police department has asked for are the top rated and most optimal cars that provide, you know, public safety for the residents and visitors of Athens-Clarke County. So I will be approving staff recommendations.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I kind of question, and I don't necessarily question our staff, but I question in general the idea that these are the only vehicles available on the market, where in Europe, the most popular, most common police vehicles are Hyundai compact sedans. I really think that we have some responsibility to hold the manufacturers to account and demand what we want to see in our own fleet. I know we're just one small community, but I think that if we were to make that communication and reach out to other communities who have the same values towards renewable energy, towards public safety, towards walkability, towards pedestrian and bike safety, because that's my big concern. I am not opposed to properly outfitting our officers with vehicles, and vehicles that are capable of proper pursuit, and these electric vehicles are. I mean, there are electric vehicles that outrace a lot of gas-powered vehicles. My problem is with the market in general and the fact that the only thing available for our public safety officers are vehicles that are not necessarily safe for the public. I sent y'all plenty of information about how SUVs, you know, they are built on truck frames. The sight lines, it's harder to see pedestrians. They're less maneuverable. There's rollover issues. You know, it's uncontestable that there are public safety issues with these vehicles. That's a reason that your insurance is more when you drive an SUV. So I feel like we need to have a real discussion and make some real outreach to the manufacturers. You know, I would reckon that most of these Ford Interceptor SUVs probably come from overseas anyways. So if the manufacturers are shipping cars overseas to America, but they're only shipping us SUVs for our police vehicles, well, maybe we can talk to those manufacturers in Europe and find out how we can get some of these Hyundai vehicles or Ford. There's a Ford sedan Mach vehicle that is very popular in Europe too. That is an EV.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I'm be supporting the CDO, particularly because when I went back through some of our emails from this year, looking at the number of settlements that we've entered into regarding ACPD-related collisions, we're looking at one tonight. We settled for one in March and February. This year alone, these incidents have totaled in $400,000 in settlements, and I'm glad that none of the injuries in these incidents were life-threatening. But what if they were? If we were to adopt larger vehicles for our entire fleet? It could have easily been the case with Timmy Patman in 2018, and could very well be the case in future should we opt for unnecessarily large public safety vehicles. And I know that such incidents are perhaps bound to happen. I mean, cars are inherently dangerous, but if we're talking about public safety without regard for the way that certain types of vehicle bodies, vehicle makes make our streets less safe, without clear demonstration of how their pursuit-rated classification makes that risk worth it, through perhaps having a work session on this topic, I can't confidently move forward on this at this time. And to speak to that a little bit further before I'm done, Commissioner Davenport made reference to the safety that has been demonstrated in places like Los Angeles, where the vehicles of these types are widely employed, but are we also looking at the number of fatalities from collisions? Or is it just safety with regards to speeds and things like that? So again, without a longer conversation, I'm not sure if we're really assessing effectively this trade-off for having this pursuit rating, but also having this vehicle type that might be more dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you, Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor.
I will be supporting this motion, and just to clarify, and Commissioner Parker thankfully mentioned this, that what the CDO just asked for is that we hold a work session, which is we've already been said that we're going to hold, and we wait till any purchases after we have that work session to talk about vehicles and materials being purchased for the police department, just so we can have better clarification, because like Commissioner Myers, I also did way too much research online trying to find out about pursuit-rated vehicles. And this really seems to be mostly an issue caused by the market, by the automobile market. They are not making a sedan available any longer. What everybody is used to seeing as police vehicles, what has been proven to be a vehicle that's easy to maneuver and that has good sight lines, they are not making this available any longer for police departments to use as a pursuit-rated vehicle, except for the Dodge Charger, which has been talked about as a very aggressive-looking kind of designed car. And really what this comes down to is that the entities who did decide what vehicles are going to even be judged as pursuit-rated or not, probably for, their own benefit, they choose vehicles that are very expensive and limit the ones that actually go toward that pursuit-rated kind of designation. So I have absolutely no problem. I think it's a smart idea for us just to stop for a second, think if there are any other creative solutions that we have not hit upon that maybe are beyond what Dodge, GM, and Ford are offering us. And maybe there are some other options there. And just to stop for a second, see if there is one. Because if there is a safer vehicle that we can give that is going to benefit our police department and give them the needs that they need and the resources they need, well, that's a better vehicle for our police department. So for those reasons, I'll be supporting this motion.
Commissioner Hamby.
Sure, thank you. I kind of hate to break it to y'all, but I believe our police department already has some SUVs, and I saw one in Beechwood the other day patrolling. So just so everybody knows. And I'm not a vehicle expert. I don't know, I'm following what our management says, what the police says that they need. But I do kind of feel like, there's more behind some of this than there is. It's similar to the UGA. There's more behind the UGA vote. No, I think there's more behind this vote too. So I don't, this is a simple police vehicle purchase. It's a simple vehicle purchase for some other departments as well. And I'm not sure, Manager Williams sent an email this week or last week, and is you're bubbling under your weekly happenings. So in your weekly happenings, you sent an email out outlining all the extra stuff that this body is putting on the commission. And having another work session for this particular easy topic is another example of us putting extra work onto this staff when we've already got a lot of work piled on them to do. So it's not doing a work session presentation is not easy to put together. Doing these agenda reports is not easy to put together, and doing the homework necessary to go into these agenda reports to identify what's the best need for this community, what's the best need for these departments that are asking for these vehicles, has been done by this staff. So I'll be supporting the original motion.
Any further input? Commissioner Thornton.
At the risk of being controversial, at that risk, 1 minute we say that we need to have a work session and more study about different vehicles, even talking to folk across the world about it. And I heard a speaker speak today about the downtown, about the toilets downtown. I don't understand how one thing demands our attention for a study and more conversation when we're talking about safety. I totally don't get it. We have certain things that we will keep pushing back on. I'm really struggling with it all, really. But if we are going to debate about something that comes from staff, that we have asked staff to do, that I'm sure they have talked to the police department, none of us are going to be in those cars. None of us are going to be driving on a chase nowhere. Why do we become the experts when the experts are telling us and giving us information? It's really, really condescending to do this to staff and to the police department for whatever our personal agendas are. Like I said before, I said that with no intention of being controversial, but our agendas need to be addressed. There's something going on here that makes little or no sense to me. But needless to say, I haven't gotten too much support on anything I vote with, so there won't be nothing new. But at least I will say what I have to say, that we need to put these personal agendas somewhere in our back pocket and do what's best for the community.
Thanks, Commissioner. Y'all hold the demonstrations. I appreciate it. We have business to attend to. All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a second from Commissioner Hool and Commissioner Link. Madam Clerk, if you call roll on the substitute motion, please.
Hool,
Yes.
Edwards,
No.
Myers,
No.
Thornton,
What am I voting on?
Substitute motion.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
No.
Davenport,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Wright,
Nope.
Denson,
Yes.
4 yes, 6 no.
All right, we return to the original motion from Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Myers.
And that would be number 1, A, B, C, D, E on this one.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I did want to speak to this motion.
No, go right ahead, Commissioner.
I appreciate the work that my colleagues, particularly Commissioners Hool and Link and Denson, who researched these vehicles. And I know last meeting we were looking at these Ford hybrid sedans, hoping that they could fulfill what we need at this time. Unfortunately, those vehicles aren't available, but I do appreciate how staff has deferred purchase of these administrative vehicles to hopefully procure ultimately some electric vehicles, some plug-in electrics. One point I'd raised to the manager that he iterated as a disadvantage for EVs, that they remain very expensive. And I know the original purchase price is expensive, but I believe in the long run, the benefits that we get from EVs, not having to pay for gas and foregoing the pollution, it's very much a very tight balance there. So I look forward to moving forward with electric vehicles to electrify this fleet as much as we can. But the need that exists right now for our police officers to have these new vehicles, I feel like we're making the best effort possible by moving forward with these hybrid Ford Interceptors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, the original motion is from Commissioner Wright. If you'd call roll for me, please, Madam Clerk.
Wright,
Yes.
Denson,
Yes.
Hool,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
Yes.
Amby,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
yes, Link,
No.
8 yes, 2 no.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to item 13, which is the bond revenue financing and intergovernmental agreement regarding the Classic Center Arena. Entertain a motion or any
So moved.
questions?
Second.
Motion
No,
from-
I had a comment, that's why I jumped out there like
Got
that.
a motion from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Edwards. Go right ahead, Commissioner Thornton.
I just wanted to make sure, of course I support this, but does this, and I think a speaker alluded to it tonight also, does this agreement have any connection to the TAD composition, or does this have anything to do with the TAD?
It does not, no. We have yet to bless TAD resident committee for this TAD district. And of course, that has to happen before any funds are allocated from the TAD.
Okay, good, thank you.
Correct. Any further input? Commissioner
I do
Myers?
have a question that I apologize to Manager Williams I did not get off, but I just want to understand that this $55 million bond is a revenue financing bond. So does that mean that the debt for it will be paid off by revenue and not involve the $33 million for the arena and SPLOST funding? And it's different from that original bond, the SPLOST bond. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the SPLOST funds will go for the design, construction of the marina. And then these bond funds will also go for the design and construction of the marina. There is a small portion of the SPLOST funds that are used to pay the interest for that you know, because you have to pay, they're bonds sold for the SPLOST funds so that we can have them up front. That'll get paid out over time, but they're not mixed with this. The revenue stream that the Classic Center Authority has identified to service the debt for the $55 million, as the mayor said, does not include TAD funds, but things like parking revenue, hotel tax on new rooms, Airbnb hotel tax, their share, catering agreement, ticket fee from arena events, net income from the arena, and fundraising. Those are things that would be used to service that debt on $55 million.
Thank you. And I also noticed in the agenda report that you said that there's a energy HVAC system financing for approximately $10 million anticipated to be submitted for consideration in November, next month. Is that for the Classic Center as well, or is that something we've talked about?
Well, that's what they're signaling, that they'll be coming back to you, because remember that the original estimate for the arena, the construction of the arena project was about in the $80 million range, of which a little less than half came from SPLOST. It was always envisioned that the Classic Center Authority would seek revenue bonds to make up the difference. As we've seen in the post-pandemic construction world, things have escalated with supply chain issues and things of that nature. So the latest estimate we had for the Classic Center arena cost was about $116 million. So there are several borrowings that are going to happen. This one's the first one at 55. I believe they're going to come back for 25, 30 million more, and then the 10 million for the associated around the HVAC and
Okay, but this
mechanical
is
systems.
part of the Classic Center project. I just wanted to clarify that as well. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions on this item or input? All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we're moving on to the professional design and construction administrative services for the new judicial center to be awarded to Croft and Associates in an amount not to exceed $3.6 million. Entertain a motion or any questions about this?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Link, a second from Commissioner Davenport. As a motion provider, any further input, Commissioner Link?
I just want to point out to the public that the location of this center has not yet been decided, and that is a forthcoming conversation.
Commissioner Davenport.
I'd like to follow up with Commissioner Link to let the public know that we will be having a meeting Monday with site committee, and I look forward to that this forthcoming Monday.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
And I want to point out for myself and others, as I was reading this, I was so glad we have our ACC Green Building Code, because we don't have to build anything into these agreements because it's there. I'm correct in that, right, Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Yes, so I think that's just wonderful. So just another appreciation for that.
Yeah, and so for the public, what Commissioner Myers was referencing is that we already have a countywide construction policy regarding the sustainability of our buildings, and so that's going to apply to every new project here. Any further input? Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, I noticed that the deadline or anticipated deadline for the site selection is December 2022. Can that be done fast? If it can be done faster? It just seems like we're hiring for the concept, but yet the concept's not going to be built, going to go past the details that would be needed for the site for a year, 11 months.
So in the past, the site selection committee has been used, and it's a lengthy process because it involves multiple check-ins with the mayor and commission, multiple check-ins with the public. And there's, of course, work for staff and the user group to undertake, or the site selection committee. So the first steps involve hiring the architect, which you're doing tonight. Well, you've awarded the contract, but we're negotiated the amount that you'll approve tonight. And then that architect will work with the user group and the tenants, the projected tenants, to do how much space, how big the building needs to be. That's going to drive the type of site that it's going to need to be on. And so this is necessary in a typical flow where you hire the architect, they do some initial work for several months, and then the site parameters are handed over to the site selection committee to move that forward. And then, and I know there's been some concerns raised prior to this about the length of time the site selection committee takes, but we would have to either cut down on check-ins with the commission or check-ins with the public. We can talk about that process again, but that's why it takes so long.
Well, I wasn't as much questioning it as making sure we were all clear on how they're working in tandem together with the architect, like you're saying, to identify the space needed, the parking, the whole project space, so that the properties that are selected for review from the site committee are relevant to the details coming from the modernization that we're looking for our judicial system.
Yes, you're
Okay.
correct, Commissioner.
Well, thank you for explaining that. I'm good to vote.
All right, any further input? All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Davenport. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to item 15, which is SPLOST 2018 Project 9, the proposed project concept for the downtown public restroom and associated streetscape. So,
Motion to approve.
Second?
all right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Hool, second from Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Hool, as the motioner, would you like to make any comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I'll say, I think this is going to be a real boon for our community. I think it's been well researched by staff, and we've discussed it at length at a number of meetings, including a work session in depth. We've also gotten a breakdown from staff of other options that have been explored and why this one rises to the top for a variety of reasons. Basically checking pretty much all the boxes of what the public has overwhelmingly said they want in a bathroom, both at this location specifically, centrally located in downtown, and also in terms of its accessibility, ease of being able to clean it and maintain it, et cetera. As an additional side note, I'll just add, I know some people raised up concerns about someone who wrote an email or texted from Portland, but I've had the fortune of spending a lot of time in Portland and using these bathrooms. My partner lived there for years and used these bathrooms. They're generally fairly well used and maintained and thought of quite positively, I think, by a lot of people in a lot of locations, including the city from which they emanate. But anyhow, I'm excited to see this move forward, and hopefully we can do that tonight.
Commissioner Parker.
Nothing to add.
All right, any further input? Commissioner Wright.
Yes, I have a commission-defined option with Commissioner Hamby and Davenport in respect to this topic, and it is to direct staff to identify other options for the public restrooms with more than one location. And the packet, I really appreciate the work and the continued work that staff has been doing since I expressed from the beginning I'm not over the sticker shock. I hear that some people are for this option for a restroom. And we have 22 pages in our packet of public comments. And there are a wide variety of concerns that we still can't answer yet related to the location as well as the sounds of this style of restroom. And I hope that there's enough commissioners here to continue to work on this project so that we can discuss everything from the 2018 investigation that was done for retrofitting existing buildings that are downtown for a public restroom, as well as the location that was in the survey. College Square hadn't even been closed when the survey went out with that, or the committee working towards it. So none of the equipment, whether we go with my favorite at this time is option 7, the luxury portables, because that gives us 2 or 3 options for less than the one sitter for this Portagucci expensive model. But I think that we need public restrooms. We need more than one. We need to service and be available for more locations. And I think that if we were to dive deeper into maybe whatever option this one is and do some genuine comparisons with number 7, we would, or a pilot program, and learn about the locations of the different portables that we put for events, the portables that we had for the pandemic, and learn the locations that were most frequented, so to speak. But I think that there's more that we can and should be done, because none of this is going to happen very fast. Either, number one, the equipment can't be here for a year, and option 7 is a 6 to 9 month purchase or delivery of it. So this thing is, in my mind, needs more work. So my substitute motion is to direct staff to identify other options for public restrooms that may include more than one location.
Second.
Right, I've got a substitute motion from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Thornton, any further input as the seconder?
I never supported this from the beginning. I know we need to have restrooms for, again, here we go back to safety again. I do believe we do need to do something, but this amount of money, when we're facing a lot of other issues, just seems to be not a good idea right now. And at first, I kind of thought that I was imagining why I was feeling a little different about this. But when I read the comments from the survey, I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. A lot of other people don't think this is a good idea either. If we pass this tonight, based on the surveys, based on no other alternative to look at other ways, we are not doing our due diligence as commissioners. When do we make decisions and we don't listen to the people? So I am going to support the CDO for further investigation, because I think it's important, but $314,000 for a poochie potty is a bit much for me. So that's my statement, sir.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Link and then Davenport.
Yeah, I'd like to call attention to item 11 under facts and issues. Staff provided a table of options. And I don't understand why the substitute motion is even on the table when staff has already done what the substitute motion is asking them to do. And, you know, I also want to remind everyone that part of this item is an annual cost of maintenance. You know, we are committed to having staff that is committed to maintaining the cleanliness of these portables. And, you know, I understand the maintenance cost for some of these other options is higher because they're made of crappier materials. This is a stainless steel, you know, essentially bomb-proof little portable, little bomb-proof box. And that's why it's expensive. But actually, you know, what we learned in our work session, and we had 2 work sessions on this. We had one 2 or 3 years ago before most were on this commission. But what we learned on our work session was that these things, you know, they're pretty much indestructible, and that's the reason that, you know, staff has recommended this, and that the cost of installing, the basic cost of the infrastructure is the majority of the cost. Basic cost of like running water and sewer to the pad where this thing is going to sit is the primary cost. So if you want a proper flushable toilet, that cost is always going to be there. If we could find someone to construct a stainless steel box with all the properly soldered onto the side toilets and sinks or whatever for cheaper, I can't imagine that it would be much cheaper, because the base of the cost is in the actual infrastructure itself.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Davenport and then Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm supporting the CDO. First of all, I do support downtown bathroom because I think it's much needed. I don't visit downtown that often, but just the fact that there are, you know, excrement throughout downtown where if we had a public bathroom, it could be, properly, or whatever, the bathrooms could be properly used. So I do support a downtown bathroom, but my comment comes in the form of the fact that, like, the surveys, as Commissioner Thornton had alluded to, when the surveys were done, people were asked if they want a downtown bathroom or a downtown restroom, and overwhelmingly people said yes. But like the specific location was not really an option, and I do think multiple bathrooms downtown will serve the needs for game days, will serve the needs for our festivals, and just having those options given to the public so they can, in a survey form, where they can say, do you like this, and this, it's a better directive for us to go in. But if we come back to the Portland Lou and College Court Avenue is the only option, I still support our public downtown bathroom, but I just think giving the public more options of where and how many locations is a much better way to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting the original motion. 'Cause we have gone, first, that we did need a downtown bathroom. That's been expressed for years. And this is a sturdy option that when the operating costs are put in place, out of the 7 options presented by staff, when they came back with alternatives, when they were requested to back in July, it is the cheapest option. I understand it is expensive, but sometimes, as we find out with stormwater, road repaving, all sorts of things, a lot of times providing the solutions for our community sometimes are expensive. But I appreciate staff doing such thorough work, coming up with so many options, breaking down the cost, and giving us this recommended option here for the Portland Lou. And there definitely is need, especially on game days and event days, for us to have multiple bathrooms. And what's great with this design that is being presented here as the recommended option is that not only are we getting one bathroom there, but also a staging area that is much more appropriate than what we have now for porta potties to be put out on this staging area. Right now, the thing is, I was downtown a little bit this weekend and saw the porta potties kind of scattered and kind of sitting on an angle on College Avenue. So this does give us the option of having more than one bathroom when we need to. It makes it very flexible. And if the commission is looking at saying that we need to have more public bathrooms in other places downtown, I am in support of that, and I look forward to us having that discussion in the future and finding the funding for that and implementing those. But we got to start somewhere. So we got to start with one before we can get to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I appreciate staff for coming up with this, coming up with the analysis with the different alternatives. And because of all of that information and the 2 work sessions that we've had, plus the analysis, I will be supporting the original option.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. And I guess I'm just looking at priorities, and I guess we'll be talking about that here in a little bit. But, we've got the Costa building that's going to be built out here soon. It's going to have a public restroom in it that's accessible from the outside, from what I understand. Again, you go back to the basement of this building. If you go to the right, there's a public restroom. During the day, all of our facilities are open. Classic Center has public restrooms. There's public restrooms throughout our downtown. I guess I go to the question here of spending $314,000 on one public seat, one public toilet, and the priorities of that. Certainly, if we have extra money left over from the Clayton Street project, be it from T-SPLOST or SPLOST, if we have an extra $300,000 laying around, shouldn't we look at what else is on that list? I mean, certainly I see, I know we'll be talking soon about an Athens Youth Development Center that's been on our list for a while. That's going to need some extra money. All of the projects on our list could probably use some extra money. So I think we ought to consider that. And that if there's extra dollars left over from the Clayton Street project, they could go towards those other projects, is the point I'm trying to make. So again, it goes back to priorities. And I'll just say this, this kind of reminds me of the first election I voted in. I think it's the first election I voted in. I just remembered on the news at those times, if y'all remember correctly, about the Pentagon spending all the money on a screw or a toilet seat. I think a toilet seat was $640 when I pulled it up here as we were discussing this, $640 for a toilet seat. And I don't know, but I just go again about priorities, and it just seems to me that the political ads will right themselves with this issue.
Commissioner Myers.
I'm going to be supporting the original motion. Yes, the political ads will right themselves with this, but I've been downtown a lot, and there are a lot of people downtown, and we all end up needing toilets. I understand the concerns that have been brought up by the public tonight in terms of danger. I happened to have been reading another study that was done in Washington, D.C. that actually had some really great advice about Portland loos that are successful. And I would point out that they're in 28 cities. Cambridge and Vancouver are two cities that have had really good luck with them. And one of the things I found interesting in here was that they have a couple of bullet points about characteristics that have cities that have experienced success with Portland loos have in common. And I think that we actually meet a lot of those. One, the location site needs to be selected for CPTED, which I really think just means safety principles, in an open, visible area, commercial area with businesses, high levels of pedestrian traffic, support and buy-in from nearby restaurants, nearby businesses, an arrangement for the police to drive by at night, and other secure measures. And I think we have all those there. The other thing is that they need to be in a place where there's a wide variety of users. The places where there have been problems have been areas where there are it's primarily used by homeless individuals or and here we'll have a mixture of people, including people who are going to the shops, to the restaurants, joggers, people cycling through, and so forth. So I think we have a good chance for this to be very, very successful downtown. Yes, it's a lot of money. A sidewalk costs $200 a foot. And many of the things that we pay for, the cost of building is probably way more than any of us would spend on a house of the same size. So for me, that argument can be used in mostly anything that we're voting on. Anyway, we have spent a lot of time talking about this, researching it. I feel that there's enough here to make our decision on that, and therefore I'm going to be supporting this.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, any further input before we move to a vote on the substitute motion? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to share one more fact that we learned in our work session on September 14th, which is that there were over 700 responses to our survey, which is actually quite good for a survey, and they were overwhelmingly positive. That's what we got from staff. So I do think that what we are doing here really is aligned with what the majority of people in the public are wanting to see.
All right, I believe the substitute motion was made by Commissioner Wright, so we'll begin the roll call with Commissioner Wright.
Wright.
Yes.
Denson.
No.
Poole.
No.
Edwards.
No.
Myers.
No.
Thornton.
Yes.
Hamby.
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
Parker.
No.
Blink.
No.
4 yes, 6 no.
All right, we return to the original motion from Commissioner Houle and Commissioner Parker. All right, in the words of the replacements, it's too late. Here we go.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to hold this until we actually are able to purchase the toilet.
Or table.
Table. There you go. Let's table this.
I'll second the table.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got a move to table from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Wright. Roll call.
Hamby.
Yes.
Thornton.
Yes.
Davenport.
Yes.
Parker.
No.
Blink.
No.
Wright.
Yes.
Denson.
No.
Poole.
No.
Edwards.
No.
Myers.
No.
4 yes, 6 no.
All right, we return to the original motion. Commissioner Houle.
Cool,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
No.
Hamby,
No.
Davenport,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Blank.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Second the motion.
Yes.
No.
Blank, yes or no?
Oh,
Yes, yes.
you're getting confused over here. It's getting a little punchy
Okay,
over
everybody
here.
calm
yeah.
down, everybody calm down.
I'm a no, I'm a no, Jean.
Denson,
Yes.
6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.
7-3.
7, I'm sorry, 7 yes, 3 no.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion carries. All right, we're in the third act of this film, folks. It's all right. All right, moving on to an item of unanimity, 16, the proposed disparity study. Be interested in any input or a motion.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I'm going to go motion from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Denson. Commissioner Myers, would you like to speak first as the motioner?
I'm just very supportive of this. I think it addresses a need for us to look at what's going on with our procurement. And I did want to share with everyone, because I've had to learn this myself, that we do have some procurement programs now, but they need to be race neutral. And the only way you can have anything that actually specifically addresses various minority groups is if you go through this kind of disparity study and there's cause for it. So if we want to move in that direction, if there's a need, we have to have this disparity study. So I'm really thankful for that. And I encourage anyone who's listening and wants to know more to read the agenda item. The PowerPoint is on there, and also the proposal from the company that goes into a lot of detail is there. But I'm very happy to support this. And the last thing is that what I really like about this the company that we're supporting, we're voting on tonight, is they include a community outreach part so that they contract with a local subconsultant to facilitate the outreach, and therefore they practice what they preach. So I'm really happy to support this.
Thanks, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Denson, a seconder?
Sure. I think Commissioner Myers put it very, very well. So I'll just say I'm also very supportive of this, and it's a big step on a long journey for us to be able to make our community economically whole, and to be able to actually make sure that we have racial justice here, economic justice, and we're making an equitable community. So I am very proud of this body and this government for taking this step.
Commissioner Parker.
Oh, I didn't mean to put my hand up, but while I'm at it, to kind of echo a little bit of what Commissioner Myers had to say, I'm really glad that you had to explain, you explained to the public a little bit our need to undertake this study. I frankly am not stoked that we have to do this, but I'm glad that we are, because it's a really important step for us to take in order for us to get racial equity for the community. You gotta do what you gotta do, and so I'm happy we're doing it.
All right, Commissioner Thornton.
I definitely support this. And I guess I am always on edge, because we do studies and then we do what we want to do. And we have really trivialized the word equity and transparency, because there's some things that a study can't tell you. You just know what's wrong and what's right, and you do what's right and what's wrong. I support this, because if this is what we need to get folk appreciating diversity and not using it as doing one thing and saying something else, that's fine, if this is how we get there. But I do think that a study means nothing if we don't learn by the study and utilize it and what we learn, or do we keep our personal agendas and issues on the forefront? So yes, I support it, but we will see if it will do anything based on what we've said on other things in the past.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Commissioner Parker's and Thornton's points are very well taken. I was eager to see this get in the budget because at the time, I felt very ambivalent about it, thinking it was just sort of this necessary hurdle to get over to comply with federal regulations. But I was really encouraged in the work session we had with MGT that this might actually be fruitful to undergo while we're going through it, so that this isn't just about checking a box at the end, but that we're actually going to get some local specific information that'll be hopefully meaningful and useful to us moving forward, as well as some recommendations for them about how we can implement policies that will actually make a difference. Because ultimately this is all about just laying the foundation for us to be able to have a more equitable approach to contracting, which we still have to wait on for this to be complete. But I am hopeful that this work is going to help us do that even better and not just check the box.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Denson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Good job, everyone. All right, moving on to another item longer to discussion is the addition to our array of community support entities in the person of the Alternative Response Team implementation, our collaboration with Advanced Behavioral Health Services.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Parker. As the one who made the motion, any further input, Commissioner Houle?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really excited that we're taking this step. I think we've talked about it well enough in previous meetings that we don't need to belabor why in this meeting, I hope. Really want to thank Advantage for the very hard work their staff has done to get us to this point, both in advance of our budget meeting when we added this program to our budget, and also since to really take the steps needed to get this off the ground. I did want to just confirm one thing with Attorney Drake, if I may. The contract is set up to clarify the relationship between Advantage Behavioral and the Clarke County Unified Government, and specifies the Clarke County Police Department. However, I think we can anticipate that as time goes on, work with the ARTs is likely to intersect with work that's happening in other departments, whether it's leisure services or HCD. And so does this contract still leave room for the ARTs to, as is mutually beneficial and feasible, build relationships with other departments in the Clarke County Unified Government that operate and would engage independently? Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. It would allow, if there are other departments that the Advantage would like to partner with, that could be done. The contract could be amended to allow for that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I am super glad we're doing this, and I hope we consider ways that it can be expanded in future, so that they can take on more scenarios that of what might be regarded as higher risk as they get off the ground, but they might develop more expertise to handle in the future. And I hope that also we might consider using the data collected by Advantage and using that to assess the need for preventative mental health care in the community in partnership with someone like the Neighborhood Health Center, so that we can help folks start to access care before it becomes an emergency. But with that, I'm very glad we're moving forward with this.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Edwards.
I'm looking forward to see how these teams perform, particularly understanding that 911 has become the catch-all for all problems in this community. So I'm really looking forward to seeing another response team that can relieve some of the burden on our police force. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick clarifying question also of staff. If the answer is not readily available, that's fine. We'll have plenty of time to get outreach on this. But Commissioner Edwards' comments made me think of this. Would basically, if somebody was calling into 911, would they be able to request, if available, an alternative response team to be what responds to their emergency call? Because I've had constituents and people come to me sometimes with situations where they really are seeking something specifically for de-escalation. So I'm wondering if that's something that they could at least, when they call 911, if they could be asking the operator if they could have.
Well, I would, I'll give you my perception based on my involvement in the discussions with both Executive Director of Advantage as well as our police chief, but I would need to confirm with them. But my understanding is there was a lot of discussion around, the safety of the team and that only in very specific situations that they would be called. So I would say the immediate thing that comes to mind, Commissioner, is if somebody was requesting the alternative response team to come in one of those where they really shouldn't be there according to the contract, then they would not honor that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think I'm on the same page with you, so that they could make the request, but if the 911 dispatcher, looking at the situation, saw that it was not applicable at this time, then they would still send whatever, but,
And that's why this took a little bit of time, because what we call the protocols, how they're dispatched, what they're dispatched for, and the ultimate thing was, of course, the safety of the people that are being served, but the safety of the teams themselves.
yes, yeah, I definitely understand that. But I know that sometimes, I think probably all of us have heard from the constituents at times where some folks are hesitant to call 911 when there's an emergency there, that I hope maybe some folks would be more willing and feel like more comfortable doing so now that we have this option there. So thank you for that.
Commissioner Thornton.
I definitely support this. This has been something we've been talking about since I first came on the commission. I have nothing negative or sarcastic to say about this item. I am really thrilled that, and I'm anxious to see how this evolves. Mental health, mental illness is real. And I think when we take the mask off, a lot of people can benefit from just acknowledging that. So I'm very pleased, very excited, and look forward to seeing how this develops.
Thanks, Commissioner. Further input from commissioners? I'll say I very much appreciate staff's engagement with Advantage. I think that this hand-in-glove relationship that the two entities have and the long history of adjacent work together is going to be meaningful here. I'll share that, I'll send a note to commissioners later this week, but Manager Williams and I were in Columbus last week engaging with communities of about our size from around the state, and a sad challenge that they faced in just this calendar year is the dramatic increase in murders. And so one community that's about 1.5 times our size just hit 53 murders so far this year. Another community just 20,000 larger, 45 murders so far this year. And here we are in Athens-Clarke County with 3. And so I think that speaks to this multi-decade, multi-partner environment that we've been beneficial to be able to live in. And this just extends that theme. And so I really appreciate everybody's efforts in moving forward. So we do have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Houle, a second from Commissioner Parker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Good job, everyone. All right, item 18 is the SPLOST 2023 revised revenue projections and designated projects. And of course, this follows a work session. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I'd like to submit and make a motion to pass the CDO that Commissioner Link and I worked on with some input from other commissioners. I did make some revisions to this, or we did make some revisions to this, and I brought everyone a paper copy, and I'd like to go over them. But first, I'd like to, do I need to get a second first before I go on?
Yeah, second from Commissioner Link.
Then I can go on. First, I want to thank the SPLOST committee. I know there's disagreement. Well, let's put it this way. We had some sort of an interesting conversation on this the last time we all met. But they did, I have to say, when I listened to them talking, that many of them had listened to us. They had a hearty discussion, and then they made a motion that the committee, the advisory committee, be informed by the mayor and commission of their priorities for funding allocations. However, they wish to make their collective recommendations after hearing all of the presentations from the different, the 90 presentations, and evaluating them based on the criteria set forth in the project submissions package. So I feel like it's respectful of us to, that passed 18-2, that recommendation, to give them something, and therefore Commissioner Link and I worked together on this CDO here. I think it's important to read the first paragraph of that, is that we want the advisory committee to understand that their role as an advisory body is deeply valued. The advisory committee will have received presentations on all the 89 now projects, and so have a more in-depth knowledge of the details and breadth of the proposed projects. We trust that the advisory committee will evaluate the projects in terms of the mayor and commissioner's T-SPLOST goals and selection criteria, and deliver a proposed project list that best meets those goals and criteria, serves the whole community, and advances equity in historically underfunded areas of the community. We then followed it with 4 points, A, B, C, and D. A, recognizing that there are projects that it's necessary to fund the following projects either partially or fully to maintain existing infrastructure. That's the bridge improvement, the pavement, and the culvert live stream. To address other, I see I've reached my time here, but
You can continue.
enable completion of prior projects. It's important to consider that they will enable, that there are some prior projects and longstanding commitments that should be considered that have a benefit to the larger community, and list the West Broad Hancock Roundabout, the College Square Pedestrian Plaza, and completing the paving of the Firefly. The point C is that there are 2 projects that help fulfill strong-held commitments among commissioners to equitable transportation options to better enable the economic development of lower-income communities and to the advancement of 100% green energy commitment. That's electrify the fleet and the ACC transit operations. And finally, the 4th point being, it's paramount that the T-SPLOST Advisory Committee allocate particular consideration to funding projects in geographic areas of the community historically neglected in previous public spending initiatives, and ones in qualified low-income neighborhoods and/or census tracts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Commissioner Link is seconder. Any further input?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Myers summed it all up pretty well, and I want to thank her because she did the lion's share of the work on this. I just kind of weighed in, and I did circulate an email offering some logic behind it. We were really focused on projects that clearly had a community-wide benefit. We know that our roads and our bridges and our live stream culverts are absolutely necessary for the infrastructure of our whole community. And I relate to y'all the community-wide benefit of the West Broad Roundabout, the College Square Pedestrian Plaza, and the Firefly. And these are also projects to which we've made a prior commitment, long-standing and prior commitments. We've already allocated funding and done some design services and had lots of public input on these. So it's clear that we are already committed to these projects, and to not further fund them would be a big waste of time and money and public expectation. And also our commitment to 100% renewable, it's essential that we take every step along the way to take the opportunity to fulfill that commitment. So that's why the fleet electrification and the transit options are on there.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure, thank you. I just kind of want to point out something here that, for one, citizen comment is ongoing for these T-SPLOST projects that we haven't even, and the Citizens Committee hasn't even heard yet. But so I think that ought to be a priority for us to listen to. Certainly these priorities are good, but certainly the priorities of the people that are going to be voting for these projects, I would like to hear what they have to say, what their priorities are going to be. And if the citizen input is going on at this point in time, then really we should wait until we hear from that citizen input that the citizens group is starting. And I'll just remind everybody too, this is transportation special purpose. All of the key to all of these projects, even in SPLOST, the word special has to take priority, because when we're talking about special projects, we need to be talking about projects that aren't eligible for other dollars, that aren't typically funded through other means, or that aren't typically have been funded in areas in our community. That's what makes it special. Let's look for the special projects in this list. So I'm going to make a motion that we hold this until we hear from that citizen, until they collect their citizen data that they need and the citizen input that they need. I'm gonna hold, and another reason I'm gonna hold it is because we just got this copy this afternoon at 5:40 that came in our email box. I don't know that this has been out there in the public domain for them to be able to look over this list. And I know how we are about, I know how, I'm going by the rules about CDOs. Y'all made the rules, let's go by the rules about CDOs if they need to be in by a certain time. So this hasn't been out there in the public domain. So for those two reasons, listen to the citizen comment that the T-SPLOST committee has put together a process for, and also our own process here. So I'll make a motion to hold this until further notice.
A second.
I've got a substitute motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Thornton. Go right ahead, Commissioner.
This is very dear to me, I guess, but one thing we got to remember, I appreciate Commissioner Myers seeking my input and with today, but if I was heard at the last meeting, D would actually be number one. It would be the heading of everything to me. But again, the things that are most important, it seems to be on the tail end, and I'm not going to read it. She passed it out to you. To me, D should have been number one if we are looking at underserved communities. That is, maybe she thought of it after we talked. One thing we all got to admit, any SPLOST tax is a regressive tax. It's a regressive tax, period. If you don't put it back into communities that really need it, that's the only way you make it progressive. The second thing, the application process was very complicated. The average citizen, and each of you should look at the application, the questions in that application, if you didn't have some skills or abilities, you could not complete that application. Thank God, in our area, we had Quazon Payne, who's a civil engineer that worked on our proposals. And the last thing I want to add, Mike said, Commissioner Hamby said, special. We need to look at special. Early on, when County Manager Blaine asked what we wanted to see, safety was number one, and what I submitted, and making sure we help those underserved communities that are impacted in a negative way because of any splash tax. When I look at the CDO, I have concerns when you, College Square pedestrian plaza. I mean, to me, that does not fit, for me. Maybe somebody's thinking they're going to get hit by a car crossing the street. I just don't think that this body takes seriously the people who have not been represented. Now, putting that towards the end, I'm more insulted by that now, because that, to me, you keep asking poor people to pay for your amenities. You do it, and then you say it's equitable. No, I made my second whatever, but that was my comment, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further input? All right, go ahead and do a roll call on the substitute motion.
Hamby?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, what's the motion on the table?
Motion on the table is to hold following the work of the resident committee.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I make a comment if that, I was also confused on what the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
And so, I mean, I know many of us, or all of us, watched the T-SPLOST committee discussion, in which, because I also wanted to make sure that, that they wanted us to do this in this process. And again, 18 of the 20 people on that committee said, for multiple reasons, it would be helpful to their work. They're not asking for any other reason. Some of the people actually were like, I want to know what they want to do so I can better strategize how to get the things I want in on this list. Some of them were honestly, transparently saying that. But 18 out of 20 of them said they want us to send them a recommendation. They did say very hard, they did not want to have us send them, say, these things are locked in, can't move. And I agree, this is the best way to move forward, and I think that's what Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Lincoln put here. But they are actually honoring the request of the T-SPLOST CAC. I mean, everybody can watch the videos. People at home watching, you can watch the video. That's what they asked us to do. And so by doing this right here, right now, we're honoring their request to try to make their work better, easier, and more effective, make this process better, easier, and more effective, and more transparent. For that, I will be supporting the original motion.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anyone else before I return to Commissioner Link? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that, yes, we have been asked, we have been made a request by the committee that we appointed to do this, to give them this list. And it's not set in stone, but it is a recommendation. So hopefully we won't be having this back and forth argument after they send us a list and we start hacking away at it and adding to it. Hopefully they'll send us a list that we can be good with. I also want to remind everyone that the agenda item itself discusses most of these projects as staff proposed projects. And we had a pretty serious discussion during our agenda session about all of these projects. So I feel like this has had some public discussion, and it's not something that's set in stone. It is merely a recommendation. So, and this committee, from what I understand, they want this moving forward. I don't think we can afford to let it sit because they want this information as upfront as possible.
Commissioner Wright and then Davenport.
My confidence in our community assignment, each of us has two residents on this committee, and they've been working really hard. The timeline for the T-SPLOST and the process had, I believe it was September 7th was when we were supposed to vote on the designated projects, giving them ahead of time some parameters. But I'm not sure why we missed that deadline. I'm sure it's because of the abundance of other work that we're doing. But I just am not going to be supportive of us interjecting into their process when they're studying and have studied the bulk of the projects, unlike us. And the public projects that have been submitted are not on the list that I've seen being prioritized, which I think is, again, another disappointment for the public's input. Again, we talk about participatory budgeting, and our SPLOST program is very much that. The presentation we got on our retreat, that community didn't have SPLOST in the community input for it. So we've got community input for projects, and we've got a community residents who are working to vet through these things. I'm very interested in what they, as community members, think of the community projects and these. So I'm ready to hold it so that we can see it and not interfere with the primary objective that we gave them. I just see it differently than you guys do for their role.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Davenport.
So I'll be supporting the original motion, and I thank Commissioner Myers and Link for their hard work. We've been through this before in 2020 SPLOST. A lot of people, the public, did not want a judicial center, did not want the arena, and the commissioners said, okay, we went to, and it especially, gave our feelings about the judicial center as well as the arena. But the most important thing is time. We have to get this submitted to the state, I believe by the end of December, if County Manager Blank can correct me on that. But we're voting on this next year, so putting it on hold. And literally what Commissioner Denton has stated, this is what the CSC has asked for. And I look forward to moving this forward.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to share a couple things briefly. The first is, and this echoes other people have said, that the citizens, the TSAC wants us to do this. They've asked for it. And also, this has been part of the stated plan from the beginning, that a recommendation like this has come. But what they're asking for, there was a lot of confusion in that discussion about whether our quote-unquote pre-designation would be quote-unquote binding. Nothing here is binding. The binding vote comes later, after TSAC has given us probably two rounds of recommendations, and then we review it, and then we finalize the list. And even then, the voters get to decide after that. And so these recommendations are not just like, hey, build around this, let us know how big they are. It's also us inviting TSAC to let us know, like, if they disagree. If we put things on this list that we're anticipating funding with T-SPLOST money, and members of the Citizens Advisory Committee don't agree with them being on the list, this is our opportunity to have that discussion before we have a final list. So I think that that's ultimately a good thing. And why I think that's especially important, this is my second point, is that at least for A and C, these are things that our budget has contemplated already. We've already essentially committed to some degree to doing this when we passed the budget. We spoke explicitly to funding fare free transit through T-SPLOST money. We've anticipated relying upon T-SPLOST money to help us make up the gap in our, failing bridges and live stream pipes that need replacement. And so if we don't fund it through T-SPLOST, we're going to have to find another source. And at the end of the day, that basically means we're going to have to raise the millage rate, defund another department, or use T-SPLOST money. Those are kind of our options here, right? So I think that's what brings us to most of these. I've also had some members of the TSAC ask me specifically about the live stream one, because that one I think is a bit confusing because we have the stormwater fee. And for what it's worth, we're putting this on here anticipating not having to raise the stormwater fee. So there is another option, at least when it comes to that one, where we could raise the stormwater fee. I'm sure we'd welcome a recommendation from TSAC if they wanted to get that deep in the weeds about how we could fund that particular project in another way other than T-SPLOST. But we're anticipating, since that fee is already controversial in the community, that a less controversial way to fund it would be through T-SPLOST. So with that in mind, I want to appreciate Commissioners Lincoln Myers for proactively working on this. I think it came to us today because they were engaging those of us who participated in the conversation they invited. Sorry.
It came yesterday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it came yesterday at 3 o'clock.
This is just a slight revision.
Yeah, the slight revision is adding, I believe, a part that was trying to speak to some concerns that were shared. But this conversation has been ongoing and also continues to be ongoing. Nothing tonight is binding. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Before I return to commission input, I think there's a clarifying point from Manager Williams.
Just two quick corrections. Commissioner Davenport asked, the February 15th is the deadline for the call for projects, or when we're anticipating that you'll approve the formal call if you decide to go through with the referendum. And then Commissioner Houle, the amount that has been suggested for the live stream replacement program is not the entire amount that's required. So I don't want to give the impression that we would be taking off the table the utility fee. And of course, the Stormwater Citizens Advisory Committee is looking at level of service, which may influence that as well, but that's got to play out. So I just wanted to qualify that.
Thanks, Manager Williams.
Can I call the question?
Well, I had my hand up. I had my hand up, Mayor.
Well, if there's
And I have my hand up too.
If there's a motion to call the question, then we have to act on that.
Well, actually,
So
Mayor, if the hand is up, you called on the manager before you called on the commissioner. I mean, we're the ones making the decision.
So if there's a motion to call the question, we've got to consider that. And so
Mayor,
there's a
I
motion to
understand.
call the question.
There you go.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Parker, a second from Commissioner Edwards. All right, can I do a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Fuck this.
Parker,
Yes?
Link,
Yes.
No.
Wright,
No.
Benson,
No.
Poole,
This is for the motion to call the question?
Correct.
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
No.
Hamby,
No.
Davenport.
No.
3 yes, 7 no.
All right, we'll turn to Commissioner input. I had Commissioner Thornton and Commissioner Hamby.
Okay, thank you. My point I was going to make, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I'm sorry, I thought he said Commissioner Hamby, then Commissioner.
He did.
Oh. My point I was going to make was regards to the kind of insinuation that we would have to raise property taxes for this. Yeah, we wouldn't have to. I mean, that's we've been fixing bridges, we've been paving roads, we get LMIG money from the state. There's currently $13 million in the current T-SPLOST budget for it. There's, even when Clayton Street was being talked about, I remember a meeting with Manager Williams where we would have had enough money left over to do what we wanted to do with Clayton, with College Avenue, because that was being discussed at that point in time about closing it. And I'm not suggesting that there's money there now. I know we need some money there for that. But my point in all of this is, and even the Stormwater Committee meeting, I don't know, has that been formed yet for them to look at that? And have they met? And have they started discussing what our options are there? So I don't know who's on that committee or what's being discussed, but we have a stormwater fee that has a fund balance in it, believe it or not. It's got a lot of fund balance in it. So the whole point I'm trying to make here is, I don't know, this is a $144 million project. We're voting on a motion that was submitted to us at the top of the page, 5 p.m. Tuesday today. And what I'm suggesting is that, the Citizen Committee has put out a call for citizen input so that that committee can hear what the priorities are for the citizens. And that's what I'm suggesting we hold. We're having another meeting in November. We'll hear back from the Citizen Committee in November. I don't know if we're having a work session with them or what, but to listen to what their concerns are, and then that's at the point in time where we can share our concerns or our priorities. But until the citizens at least look at the list and have their say about the priorities, I think we ought to wait on this.
Commissioner Thorne.
I just got a message, and it says, we asked you to make, we asked that you didn't make earmarks. We said that we were willing to hear your recommendations. I'm be open and honest about that. If that is the case, first of all, I don't even think that should have even gone back to the Citizens Committee for a question. One commissioner recommended that, one, and you took it back and muddied the water. So that's why we're here now. If this is the case, that they do want to hear what we want, yeah, there's some things I want to tell them. But I don't feel that these 6 things is what all of us want. And even for the bridge improvement, this town has taken something very broad. When you do maybe, let's just say they agree to bridge improvement program. If you don't come into the neighborhoods that have not been traditionally helped, what you'll say is, well, we did what the commission said, we did bridge improvement, but you may not be in my community that really needs it on North Avenue. It's the same thing with the talk to Commissioner, same thing with the pavement maintenance. If we tell them that and they do not understand how important it is for low-income committees to make sure they're included, that's the problem that I have when we send something broad and we do not specify those committees that traditionally does not get financial help. I don't know why that's so difficult to understand. That's all I'm saying. I would have been glad to give them a list of things, well, they got them, thanks to Quasi Payne. But I don't think now, and let me go on record saying this, I appreciate so much this committee. I had the hardest time getting 2 people to serve. The hours are long. They're working with people they don't know, and they're doing a good job. I don't mind giving them some ideas, but that should have been done up front and when it was clear. I have met with County Manager Blaine, Robert Chesser, Keith Sounder. We have met. All you had to do was say, Commissioner Thornton, you have an opportunity to make some designations. I would have been glad to do that. And so if these are the only 6 things or the 8 things that we are asking, that's what we want to give them, that's fine. The only good part about all of this, and this will be the last time I speak to it, I believe that this committee is smart enough to make good decisions, and I give them credit for that, and that the community proposal should not have been competing with staff proposals. The process is wrong. I will close on this. Since there's so much confusion, this T-SPLOST was supposed to go on the agenda for the referendum in November. Maybe we should pull back until we get our signals together and put it back and shoot for November. Because it don't make no sense to put something thrown together in May and we're all confused. I'm confused. I'm just telling you, I'm confused. So maybe this needs to go in November.
Any further input before we vote on the substitute motion? Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. Further just speaking to the original motion, again, I was just thinking back as everyone was talking to the CAC's dialogue, the conversation, and they kept on bringing up that what they wanted was, many individuals brought it up, and I thought it was a good way to think about it, and I've been trying to think about it this way. They want to have a dialogue with the commission, they said. Multiple members said they want to have a dialogue. They want to have a back and forth. They want to be able to hear from us what our priorities. They want to come back to us and say, okay, I heard you. Here's what we're thinking. We say, okay, fantastic. We hear you, and we have a back and forth, a healthy back and forth dialogue. And because I know that the CAC members watch these meetings, and I appreciate it because they're taking this work very, very seriously, that, you know, we're all trying to do the same thing. We all want the same outcomes. We all want to have an Athens that has mobility access for everyone, and that definitely takes an equitable approach at that and focuses on communities that have been overlooked over years. And I've heard that from watching the CAC's meetings that they are taking that very seriously too. And I greatly appreciate that. And so I want all of us on this body, on that body, to understand that what we're trying to get here for is to have a positive outcome that has the best items on that referendum that goes before the wonderful people of Athens for them to make that final decision. So I want us to be, I just encourage us to think about this as a healthy dialogue between us and that CAC that's going to be ongoing throughout these months until February when we make that final decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, I think we're ready to vote. I will note the iterative process of commission engagement with the residents is what we experienced in the 2020 SPLOST referendum. I think we ended up with a healthy outcome that way, as I believe we will here as well. So the substitute motion is to place this on hold pending completion of the work of the resident committee. Roll call, please. Madam Clerk, beginning with Commissioner Hamby.
Hamby?
Yes.
Davenport?
No.
Parker?
No.
Blink?
No.
Wright?
Yes.
Denson?
No.
Poole?
No.
Edwards?
No.
Myers?
No.
Thornton?
Yes.
3 yes, 7 no.
All right, we return to the original motion with Commissioner Myers.
I
Go ahead,
would
Commissioner.
just like to speak to it once, and I just really basically want to speak, and then to the committee itself, having served on 2 of these selection committees. I want to emphasize that the wordings, the word that comes before this list, the paragraph, is very, very important. This is not, when we say we're putting our trust in you to evaluate these projects, we need that. The groups of, the focus on historically underfunded areas of the community, which ends the first paragraph, and the last paragraph about paramount for the advisory committee to look at geographical areas that have been underserved. Those items are last in those series because those are so important. And we trust this. These are not designations, again. These are some comments on them, and I hope you will read these carefully. And please, I ask you actually to reach out to the commissioners that put you on there for any clarification as well. And then I'll call for a vote or whatever you...
Thanks. Very briefly, Commissioner Rule.
Call the question. Move to call the question.
Second.
Okay.
So there's a motion to call the question from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Edwards. All in favor of calling the question? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll go ahead. Roll call vote, beginning with Commissioner Myers.
Yes.
Thornton?
Yes.
Hamby?
No.
Davenport?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Blink?
Yes.
Wright?
No.
Denson?
Yes.
Poole?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
8 yes, 2 no.
All right, thanks, everyone. All right, we're going to move on to a report from the Legislative Review Committee. It's chaired by Commissioner Wright, and the committee has done quite a bit of work, and I know, Commissioner Wright, you would like this to rest in the public view for some time, so I
Yeah,
turn it
yes, I
over
want
to you.
to thank staff for keeping us on task with our ambitious deadline that we have met, and we have a draft proposal for Human Relations Commission, and I'm going to go ahead and do the motion, and one of the things, which is that the Legislative Review Committee recommends holding consideration of this draft ordinance and the recommendations for the Human Relations Commission by the full mayor and commission until the November voting session to provide additional time for public input and refinement. So,
Second.
there we have a second from GOC.
All right.
There you go.
You were taking too long.
Way to move it along, Russell. And so, one of the reasons that we made our deadline was because we had a rapid response of our own with concise input, and that's my concise input. And if committee members would like to give a concise input to the rest of them, so be it. But I look forward to the vote and the public's input as it's out there.
All right, motion.
As the seconder, I'll say I support the motion maker, Madam Chair, and the diligence her committee has applied to this question meeting weekly. So I see no issue with holding this and look forward to supporting it and then having a recess.
All right, any further input? Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner
This
Myers.
was probably one of the most effective work sessions. I want to thank Assistant Manager Jones and Crystal. I mean, it was well organized, it was very clear. I think they have put together a model that we should be using in all of our group studies and group activities, maybe even with SPLOST. But this was probably one of the most, those weekly meetings were not stressful. People were agreeing with people and appreciating each other, and I think that makes it wasn't a tug of war. And I think that's the reason we accomplished what we did. I do not think we could have gotten this done without the leadership of staff. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I do want to speak to the same point. I think that the product that we came out with was wonderful and enabled by the leadership of our chair, Commissioner Wright, along with Assistant Manager Jones and our equity officer, Crystal Colburn, did a great job facilitating those meetings. I mean, they were so productive, and I think the product is there. I encourage everyone to take a look at this, to share it with as many people. The reason we're holding it is to get that feedback in there and, reach out to us so that we can have plenty of time and not be making last-minute adjustments here. And I'm happy to been a part of this and to support it going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. And I can certainly echo, it's been a good process. One thing I would add, we started off by bringing in people who have direct experience and expertise in other communities, which I think was a great way to start off our committee process, and I hope we can borrow from that in the future with committee work or perhaps even work sessions. No doubt staff has totally rocked it. I really appreciate work with my colleagues on this as well. The other thing I wanted to add is that we're delaying this not only to get public input, which we do want on this, so please give it to us, but also to further review a couple things related to this. And among them is hopefully some sort of proposed budget that can accompany some of the recommendations we're making, because there are some things that we're looking to do here that are not just words on paper, but will actually require people to do the work. We're talking about including stipends for the members of the committee. And so I hope that this body will also seriously consider a potential budget amendment to accomplish some of the work that we've outlined here and hopefully will be passing next month.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, motion and a second are on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to recess for 10 minutes for a little break.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we'll recess until 8:20.
I was like,
And we are back here at City Hall for the monthly voting meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission for the final stretch. And we are picking up with item number 20, a resolution recognizing the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day. I want to thank Commissioner Denson for bringing this, and a lot of folks around the country and locally who collaborated on this. Commissioner Denson, do you want to begin discussion?
Yeah, I'll start with a motion for us to pass this resolution.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Edwards. Any further comment, Commissioner Denson?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm very excited for us to take this step, as you said, Mayor, that many other cities and states even have been taking across the country. This resolution is to recognize the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day, as an alternative to Columbus Day. This land that we are on right now, as all of Clarke County and Georgia, was originally inhabited by indigenous people, specifically here in Athens, Cherokee and Muskogee people. And especially, we have to grapple with our own history and tell a true history here. And especially in Athens, when our own Wilson Lumpkin was one of the most pivotal individuals in creating the Trail of Tears and enacting the Indian Removal Act, in which we have streets and buildings named for him here in this town. It is important for us to be true and honest to our history, and this resolution and the creation of Indigenous Peoples Day does that. I'm very thankful to the UGA Institute of Native American Studies to offer their guidance in creation of this resolution, and look forward to working with them and the indigenous nations of Georgia to celebrate this holiday for years to come. With that, I'm supporting this resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Edwards, a seconder. Any further input?
Yes, I very much appreciate my colleague, Commissioner Denson, for pushing this forward. I have a degree in Spanish, and I remember reading the journals of Christopher Columbus when he landed here in the New World, as they said, though it wasn't very new for all the people that were here. And he wrote about the people he encountered, quote, "They should be good servants and intelligent, for I observed that they quickly took in what was said to them, and I believed that they would easily be made Christians, as it appeared to me that they had no religion." So from the earliest moments of his interaction with these new people he found, who were already here, there were racist overtones, intimations towards subjugation. And so I think it's important that as this commission has come correct with our history in other ways, that we take this small step to come correct once again and pay homage to the indigenous peoples who lived in this area for time immemorial, and take away an honor from what all appears to be a racist sailor who made it across the Atlantic in the late 15th century. I'm happy to see Claudio Sant collaborating on this project with us. His recent work, Unworthy Republic, talks about the dispossession of Native Americans, and he has won, well, he was a finalist for a National Book Award for nonfiction, and he also won the 2021 Bancroft Prize for that work. So good job tapping his expertise at the University of Georgia. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I'm very excited about this as well. As the descendant of Halo-Saponi natives to the Piedmont region of North Carolina, and discovering a lot of my own heritage that was erased, much like the history of the Muskogee have been erased from our lands. And so as we endeavor to, as this resolution lays out, promote the closing of the equity gap for Indigenous peoples through policies and practices that reflect their experiences of Indigenous peoples, and I learn more about what that means for my people and our heritage and our history, as well as how we can truly embody that and engage that as local government. I encourage us to ask ourselves how we can engage Indigenous descendants of people whose lands this is still, about their ancestral knowledge of how we might continue to steward this land, and potentially address the question of one day returning some of these public lands to the Muskogee. And I want to give my thanks as well to Commissioner Denson for putting this together, so we can begin looking forward to some of that work.
Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I am very, very eager to support this, and, you know, in many ways, it's long overdue. What this is really about is about truth. We cannot move forward without reckoning with our past, and we are a nation that was founded on genocide and built by slavery. And we cannot become a truly great nation until we recognize that and make amends for it and recognize the rich culture that really is part of this unified nation, and bringing those peoples in who actually were here way before any white person set foot on these lands. I want to call upon this government to go further than this resolution, to recognize the native sites, which I understand there are several along the Greenway, and really acknowledge those, and not only acknowledge them, but use them as a means of education so that this truth can be told throughout our community and beyond.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, many thanks to everybody who contributed to this. I think this is an important first step. I'd also like to point people to section 1 of the kind of 4-part resolves of the resolution, which says to recognize and redress the past and continuing harm. And I think this is an important step towards recognizing. I think it even outlines some other things that we as a county government will do to recognize. But what this does not yet do is outline what we're going to do to redress harm. And so I hope that we will take seriously in the days, months, and years ahead relationship building with the people who are most directly affected, and therefore I think closest to the solutions, closest to the answers of what redress might look like. I appreciate Commissioner Edwards mentioning the book by one of the contributors to this bill. Another book I might add people check out if they're interested is Decolonizing Wealth by Edgar Villanueva. Another very good book that I think could even outline some of how redress may look. And I guess just the last thing I'd like to say, I mean, part of what makes me proud to be on this body is that I think this government has made some real strides in the truth lately, this year especially. And people have been rallying. There was a rally to tell the truth held on campus with some folks from Lindentown and professors there. And I do think that our voices are stronger when we're all a part of passing this. I anticipate this is probably passing unanimously, but if two of our colleagues, I think, are still out on the break, but if I can ramble on just a bit longer so they can maybe make it back in the room and participate in this with us, I think it would be a stronger message if we're all voting together to pass this.
They're gone.
So
They're gone.
they've left. Oh, okay,
So
never-
we can, so you don't have to ramble on.
Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I am very happy to support this. I think one of the ways we start redressing it, all the issues about what happened to the indigenous people here is the kind of education in this first movement we're making here. My colleagues here have already recommended this wonderful book that I'm reading already, Unworthy Republic, which was recommended by someone. And I think there's so much history here. Hopefully, it's a small thing, but hopefully we can also incorporate this into some of the public art and the public historical markers that we have in town to make people aware of this. I think that we don't know our history unless there's someone to remind us and to teach us, and that's one of the roles that we can play here in doing what we're doing tonight. So I'm happy to support this.
Thanks, Commissioner, and I agree with everything that's been said. In addition to Unworthy Republic being one of the best things I've read in the last year, I'd also point to a great series of articles. They're very locally focused by Stephen Scurry that you can find in the Flagpole Archives. I recommend looking for those. So with that, with a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. All right, we have 4 items of business to consider under suspension of rules, but did want to make quick note of item 21, the eviction prevention program, which is still under work between the applicant for that program and staff, so that when it launches a month from now, it'll be the strongest program it can be. So I don't want anyone to anticipate that that's not coming back. We're going to see that again in our November agenda. So we do need a motion for suspension of rules for new business. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Thornton and a second from Commissioner Parker for suspension of rules. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're moving on then. Item 22 is resolution authorizing settlement. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Edwards, second from Commissioner Benson. Any further input? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 23 is continuation of our declaration of a local state of emergency. We are better than where we were a week ago, but we are far from where we need to be. So entertain a motion for continuation of our ordinance, this 22nd declaration.
So moved. Second.
All right, I've got a
Ordinance.
motion from Commissioner Link, second from Commissioner Myers. If you could read that ordinance. Attorney
An
Drake.
ordinance for the 22nd declaration of a local state of emergency related to COVID-19 and for other purposes.
All right, thank you, Attorney Drake. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, item 24 is expansion of the vaccine incentive program that we've been piloting. I think there's discussion of slight modification of the recommendation. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner, I believe, Myers for bringing this forward while I was gone. It's something I was really interested in seeing happen, knowing that there's a lot of different kinds of community knowledge that can be leveraged to ensure that everyone gets vaccinated, particularly in hard-to-reach communities. But I did have some questions to ensure that this RFP is maximally, or is going to be something that we can get some folks to apply for, get some folks to undertake. I first wanted to ask about the risk assessment requirement that I am actually pulling up the agenda item now so I can reference the exact part that is under. My apologies. Applicants have to complete and submit programmatic risk assessment provided in Section 5 of the RFP. This is in Attachment 1. So is that required for anyone applying for American Rescue Plan funds?
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah.
But this form, there is no form provided by the government. It says a risk assessment should be provided. This risk assessment is based on similar documents we've used for CDBG programs, which has passed muster with the federal government, so we're defaulting to that.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is that I'm sure you could go through there and say, why would you ask this of a provider? And what we're trying to do, we want to be very careful about equity. This is a precedent. So the next subrecipient, for instance, on the eviction prevention, will be filling out the same tool. The applicant for the homeless camp services will be filling out the same tool. So it's just a form that we hope will pass federal muster. And then based on the interim, Treasury interim final guidance on June the 23rd, it would inform them what level of compliance monitoring we have to do according to the federal government.
So it's highly recommended by the federal government, but not necessarily stipulated that we have to.
It says that you should conduct a
You should.
risk
Okay,
assessment,
yeah.
but that's all it says.
That's really helpful. Okay, should. The language is helpful to know. I'm also curious if any prospective providers were consulted in drafting this RFP to ensure that expectations are reasonable given some of their capacity.
Well, no.
No? Okay.
It's not a real complicated program. It's that we would provide $100 gift cards per each shot to providers. Where we tried to fashion, I think the intent of certainly the executive order and some of the wording in ARPA was to target those underserved communities. So we tried to come up with some minimum qualifications that I know there were some questions about trying to, the provider would be located in a qualified census tract, for instance. And that's trying to get the funds into those areas, underserved areas that the government recognizes. And we can talk, I know there's questions about that, so we'll talk about that at the appropriate time.
Okay. So that's helpful. With regards to admin costs, my understanding is that for the existing vaccine incentive program, only 3,000 of the allocated 50K had been spent on admin funds, and that was mostly for public safety, security, things like that. And sorry to kind of ask about that to get a sense of how it compares to what we have here. Is it expected that those funds kind of roll over as they get more funding for the incentives themselves, more of that admin cost will be spent, or where is that money going?
Sure. So what we're trying to do with some of these other subrecipient RFP processes that are currently underway, and I will say the federal government does say that the competitive procurement process has to go for the awarding of subrecipients, which is why we're doing these things. We tried to ask ourselves, well, what administrative costs would be involved in such an effort by a provider? The provider will see the patient regardless. They will obtain the vaccine. They will administer the vaccine regardless of this program. It's for somebody on their staff to go and buy the cards, to submit the documentation, and to submit the reporting for us for compliance purposes. So we were going to leave some room in the RFP for providers to tell us what that looked like to them, but we felt like we picked a number of 5% for administrative fees, that they could bill against, not unlike the health department has done.
Okay, so with the funds the health department has received thus far, it was also a 5% administrative, no?
No, that was a first go at it, and they
Okay.
asked for $50,000.
Yeah.
And they were going to do more out in the field events. This would ostensibly happen in the office, but it could happen out in the field. And certainly, if one of the providers said, well, we want to do two, in neighborhoods, and we would like an off-duty police officer, I would consider that an administrative expense, much like the health department.
Okay, but it wouldn't necessarily cover the paper pushing part of maybe the documentation necessary for ensuring compliance or anything like that.
Sure, and we put those as for instances, and we want to see what comes back from the RFP, and then we can negotiate that in the contracts. We could either do a fixed cost for administrative, or we could have them submit time for their personnel to do things like reporting. We're hoping the reporting burden won't be too great, but we do know there are certain things that you want to know, and of course we have to navigate HIPAA with that as well.
So I'm looking at under Part 3 budget in Attachment 1 where it says administrative rates of up to 5% will be considered. We could be flexible on that since we kind of made up that number. And maybe if someone has a very detailed budget in which it is explained why their administrative costs might be higher than that, we might still want to consider that proposal. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's certainly, yeah. Yes, that's right.
Okay, I am so sorry to hit you with all these questions.
No, I'm
missed
just trying
the
to
email
think
and only
through
got
that.
this last night, and so I just want to
We're trying to ballpark what we,
Yeah.
a maximum amount. I'll tell you, and I'll share this with an email with you. We're looking at 10% on the eviction prevention, but in all fairness to the applicant, it depends on how much is awarded. I mean, if you give them $1,000, then $50 is not a lot. So we'll have to work through that and be reasonable.
Okay. Thank you for answering all of my questions. With that being said, there's two modifications I would like to see to the existing RFP if possible. One being scrapping the requirement that a provider be physically located in a qualified census tract area. It's not something we require of DPH. I don't see why putting that burden on some of our smaller local nonprofits to try to do the same. It might limit the number of providers, and we end up in a similar situation where we not get a lot of applicants. And there's a lot of folks that do have community connections to areas that have a lot of low-income folks, even though they're not physically located there. So I don't personally, if there's no legal reason why we need that, would like to see us move forward without that, as well as I referenced in my line of inquiry with with Manager Williams, have the 5% administrative cost be a suggestion for folks submitting an RFP, but not necessarily a hard deadline. If someone gives us a really good reason why they need more, we can still consider our application. If we get an application that's above that and we decide that seems like too much, we might offer them an amount that seems more reasonable to us, but being flexible there so that, again, we don't discourage people who might need that funding for making sure that their programs are successful. So I just said a lot.
So is that in the form of a motion
That is,
we-
I can put it in the form of a motion if you need.
I second it.
Motion is to support staff recommendation with the elimination of the qualified census tract component.
Yes.
Yes.
And to use 5% as a target.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so motion from Commissioner Parker, second from Commissioner Thornton. Other input from commissioners? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up. If you look at the attachments, you'll see some of the demographics of participants. But we also get some information on people, like whether people live in ACC, work here, or attend school here. And I had inquired with Manager Williams about this today. So Manager Williams, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I got from you is we had 208 total people who listed themselves as here for school, 49 of which were UGA, 16 Athens-Tech, and the rest being CCSD. Is that correct?
That was my information from the health
Okay.
department, yes.
I don't want to slow this down today. I'd like to see this move forward. I think it's important. I would also like to see if there's a way we can partner with these institutions, especially UGA and CCSD, to help pay for this. CCSD also has an ARP allocation, and if they have 150 people at least participating in this, it seems like a good argument to get some contribution from them to help us pay for this. And UGA also certainly, anytime we can find a way to collaborate with them to help them contribute to these programs, especially given their apparent inability to pass a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate, if they can help us get people vaccinated by pitching in on this, I think that would be useful as well.
Just a brief note, Commissioner, a school-based nursing staff member requested direct support for the vaccine incentive, and I referred that individual to the school board and superintendent with exactly that in mind. So
okay.
Just want to make a note of that.
Okay,
Thanks.
that was definitely my question. I think at the last meeting, that was my question to the county manager, the role, if any, that the school district was playing, and I think you were going to check with somebody, so I imagine we still don't know.
Well, I know they were working with the university as well. The university had offered to do some small promotional things for them. I can't speak to what they are doing for, I know that they have worked with the health department with the award and are trying to schedule those events for their students, but I don't know how much they're putting of their own into it.
Well, I do agree with Commissioner Hull. I do think that all these institutions are getting money, and we're all dealing with the same thing. And when we talk about collaborations and meeting and trying to work together, those are some meetings that we should have, that we're not picking up everybody's bill or invoice on this. So if we're going to start working and collaborating, I've heard earlier, this would be a good project to see if UGA and the school district are going to put in money.
Thanks, Commissioner. I will say, just given what the state and national demographics have been of the vaccinated versus unvaccinated, it is great to see that we see a high representation of relatively young folks in those who've taken advantage of this so far, 67%, 44 years of age or younger. So definitely moving the community where we need to be in terms of absolute vaccination. So any further input before we call for vote? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just because I'm imagining that we'll end up renewing this again, and at that point, we'll be looking at over $1 million allocated to this. So I would appreciate if in the next round of information, we can get just kind of an update on what communications with the school district and UGA have looked like, so that can inform our decision on how to move forward. I think that would be helpful.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Last item of business is just a resolution for the Food Bank of Northeast Georgia expansion project and their application and designation of the architectural design services firm.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Parker, a second from Commissioner Davenport. Any further input? All in favor? Aye. All right. Last item of voting business tonight is our single zoning item, which is a request of David Matheny for Stan Mullins regarding a small segment of property at 650 Pulaski Street for a single-family dwelling. And Commissioner Thornton, it's in your district.
I definitely support this. I've talked to Stan. I think there is no problem. I do see it was approved by the Planning Commission, and I think I'm very good with this. I am also about to text you guys some work in the spirit of the resolution we passed on some work that Stan did in Atlanta. But yes, I am supportive.
Thanks.
I make the motion that.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Thornton and a second from Commissioner Link. And I do apologize, I failed to seek public input on this. Is there any public input on our item number 26? Public input on item 26, the Pulaski Street project? All right, go right ahead, Attorney Drake.
An ordinance to amend the code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia with respect to rezoning 0.185 acres of a 1.26 acre parcel located at 650 Pulaski Street from CN Commercial Neighborhood to RS5 Single Family Residential with conditions and for other purposes.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, all business items being complete, now's the time for resident input on any items not on our agenda tonight. Same rules apply. Every individual has 3 minutes. Please provide your name, your residence, place of residence, and you will have 3 minutes. Light will be green when you begin, yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining, and red when your time is up. So, good evening.
My name is Dennis Holmes, and I reside at 1965 Winterville Road, Lot 2. And I don't think that I had to tell y'all why I'm here. I've been coming up here long enough. Yes, sir, y'all should know it. Hey, but I got something that I want to tell each and every last one of y'all. I was looking at TV one day last week, and I heard something that caught my attention. It said, just delayed is just denied. And I got to thinking, I was like, 2 years ago, I was standing down right here where I'm standing now. And I told each and every individual that's sitting there, I said, I want justice. And, when I heard that, I was like, that's something I got to go down and bring to the mayor and the commissioner's attention because, hey, I'm an individual, I come from the streets. Man, Parkview, Paldo, East Side, and hey, we more or less we grew up, thinking that we had to be 21 about whatever it was we did or we said. Being 21 means, okay, if we did something and we got caught, hey, we had to step up and be a man about it. And I've known myself to do this ever since I've been in existence. And that's the only way I know how to go by being the individual that I am. But and I don't know how to tell y'all, but it's hard for me to accept the fact that I know injustice has been done to me, and y'all know it. Now, why y'all can't step up and do the right thing? Hey, I ain't no beggar. That's something I would never, ever come to one of y'all and beg y'all to do something. I never have been and never will be. But when I see an injustice has been done, hey, I don't know how to stop coming forward. I'm relentless. Each and every time that these doors open, until y'all do the right thing, y'all gonna see me here. Y'all gonna see me. because for several years, is what is wrong is wrong. And I'm asking y'all to do the right thing. And don't continue to smile in my face. And when I turn my back, frown.
Thank you,
upon-
Mr. Holmes.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
Good evening.
Good evening. I am Shanice Allen. I live at 130 Meredith Ridge Road, resident of District 1, and I have a business in District 2, and I own properties in District 2. I'm speaking on behalf of the Inner East Athens neighbors. T-SPLOST and SPLOST projects presented on behalf of underserved and marginalized communities should have a mandate that community input should be obtained prior to the project being submitted to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and not on the back end. If a project is to take place in a marginalized area, the population of underserved and marginalized communities need to be at the table to say what is needed in their area before a project is submitted on their behalf. Time is out for people telling poor folks what they need instead of asking them what is needed. It's downright disrespectful. Underserved citizens need to be included and have a voice on things that affect them. Property taxes have increased 15 to 20%, and our seniors on fixed incomes need assistance with their taxes. If there is something that local government can do to assist those seniors on fixed incomes and the marginalized population who owns property, this information needs to be shared and given to the folks that need it, and put it on the acc.gov website. What happened to the moratorium for development in District 2? Where are the speed bumps, sidewalks, street lights, bus stop seats, and bare necessities in District 2? But outside bathrooms for downtown passed tonight. What are the priorities where equity is concerned for our community? We must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Evening.
How are you? My name is Bill O'Brien. I'm at 428 O'Connor Boulevard, Athens, Georgia, 30607. I'll just read from a letter I sent to the 220 residents in my community. Dear Land and Walk homeowners, this is Bill O'Brien, current Land and Walk HOA president. I am compelled to inform the homeowners about the injustice to our HOA of our own county. Athens-Clarke County has been billing our HOA for 16 county tax-funded lights for almost 15 years. These are county lights on county roads in our subdivision for all the public to use. I discovered this in May of this year, informed Stephen Bailey, interim director for Transportation and Public Works at Clarke County. Stephen and myself both researched this matter by contacting Georgia Power and agreed with the findings. Stephen Bailey confirmed that Clarke County has been billing our HOA for 16 county lights for 194 months at an average cost of $149 per month. They have been billing us from March 16, 2006 to July 1st, 2021. Now Brad, who's been working with Stephen for some 17 years, says he's never heard of this. First time in Clarke County it's ever happened. The county billing a private entity, in this case an HOA, for 16 county lights on county roads. And nobody did anything about it. I discovered it. They have been billing us, the total load by the HOA, to our HOA by the county is $28,906. Stephen Bailey emailed me on July 6th and stated the county attorney and the city manager both agree with and approve his assessment. They agree that the county will take back payment of the lights and provide back payment in the amount of $28,906 for historical bills incorrectly charged to our HOA. Sounds great, right? Thought it was settled. Nope. A month later, email, lawyers said there's statute of limitation issues and precedents. Well, The statute of limitation that they sent me had to do with 12 months, which of course starts at discovery of injury. In this case, it doesn't even apply. We were still being billed by the county up to July 1st of this year. That's 3 months ago. We were still being billed. Where does that come in? So that didn't work. So we got on a video call with our lawyers and heirs. Well, forget about statute of limitations. That didn't work for us to keep the money that we stole from you. So now we're going to go to precedent. We're going to set a precedent. Well, you can sell a legal precedent by going to court and losing, and it'll be a legal precedent. But what kind of precedent do you want to set? That the county can take money for 15 years from a private entity in HOA for county lights and then just not pay it back and throw out some legal term like precedent or whatever? That's ridiculous. So I'm basically here to just inform you all of it. I've done some email stuff to Tim and to the mayor. He brought up the precedent thing. I got some copies of things from the lawyers. It's all mostly about when the developer built the homes, and the developers in the county here, we have new homes going up all the time in our development or our subdivision. They pay for the first year, then it goes back to the county. The county didn't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
Anyway, just want our money back.
Evening.
Yeah, good evening. Broderick Flanagan, 243 Sunset Drive. Here to kind of give an update and speak to the need of a community center out in Rolling Ridge. I know we came last month, and this month we were saying we're going to drop off the surveys and information. We have not, we aren't ready to drop off that information just yet. I'm still working with residents to get them to come out to be a part of this process. I feel like it's important for residents to learn the process of civic engagement, and I think that's part of what my role is as a facilitator in this process, is to help get them to a space where they can come to advocate for these things on their own, so I don't have to necessarily be the one speaking to these issues. And so I appreciate the options that were presented previously after our last month, coming to speak about this issue. But I think that is, kicking it further down the road, like the option of like potentially having it paired with a tax allocation district and that process. And so I know that there are funds that are getting ready to be allocated through the CARES funding or the rescue funding. And so I would love to see us explore some other type of options of possibilities and feasibilities of like how to get this happen or how to make this happen for the Rolling Ridge community. The playground that they have now, after talking to some of the residents, is just still unsafe. It's next to the road. There's no fence by the road where the playground is. It's outdoors, so if the elements are, desirable for them playing outside, then what do, like on a rainy day? And so, it's been a long-standing need for the community to have some type of center with programs that they can access in or near their neighborhood. And so I would love to figure out some kind of way to like put something in writing or start a process of exploring how to come up with that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, hi, good evening. My name is Jason Clark. I stay at 192 Pepper Ridge Lane. I'm also here in support of the Rolling Ridge Community Center. And not just Rolling Ridge, there's also 2 other communities right adjacent to that area. So all 3 needs this community center. Also, real quick, it's my understanding that the people in front of me have the power to, I guess, build some type of community center on a public property. I'm just more confused and frustrated on why that we should have to come and ask for Wi-Fi for children, these type of things. So, yeah, also, I'm not sure if anyone ever visited that area, but it's a lot of good youth, it's a lot of good people that need these particular things. So like I said, Wi-Fi, access to education, access to a youth center and things of that nature. Also, I just wanted to say that I believe it's more of just having empathy. If you guys can just put yourself or just try to travel and put yourself in these people's shoes, and you can see and feel that they need it, you know what I mean? And it really is a place. And Ms. Link, I know that you are over that area, so if you guys can just really look deeper into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Stacy Dean, 48 Meadow Lane. I am one of your community leaders with Family Connection and Community Schools. And the reason I'm here tonight is I saw that you guys have the expansion for vaccine and sitting on the program for the other providers. Well, we're collaborating with the school district as well as we're trying to reach out to Athens-Clarke County too, because we need incentive funds to help us get these kids vaccinated. We already made a plan to get kids vaccinated October the 20th and the 21st at Cedar Shoals and Clark Central. Our goal is to get 100 students vaccinated at each school, but we're running a roadblock and getting resources to help the incentive to get the students vaccinated. So we really, really wish you guys can get together with the school district and help us get these funds together for these students to get vaccinated. Innovative healthcare system, Dr. Allen, Dr. Shanice, them, they're very passionate about getting our kids and students vaccinated in the community. We've worked with them, collaborated with them once before back in the summer at the Advantage Behavior Daycare Center off North Avenue. Within a 2.5-hour time, we vaccinated 15 homeless people when they said we couldn't vaccinate but 2. So they're willing to reach out and help us. We had a big meeting today with the school district and at Clark County Health Department. Ms. Peak's supposed to be checking to see can we get these funds to help these students get incentive to get vaccinated. So we really, really need you guys' help. We're excited about this. We've been working on this for the last 2.5, 3 months, collaborating with the school district and everybody. So I just want to thank you for your time and your effort, and just take that into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Padilla, 156 Alice Walker Drive. I'm a resident in the Lantern Walk HOA off of Jefferson River Road. This is my first time ever attending a meeting or speaking, but what has gone on with my and the others' homeowners' money is egregious and it must be resolved. I'm following up Mr. Brian O'Brien's comments about the county's misappropriation of our HOA funds from 2006 to July 2021. I, along with over 200 other homes and their owners, demand the commissioner and mayor give us real answers. Our funds have been used for 16 county tax-funded lights for almost 15 years. They have given us multiple reasons as why they cannot return the entire $28,906 they stole. The first reason was the statute of limitations, even though the money was being collected up until July of this year. So that reason doesn't hold up. The second reason is setting a negative precedent. To that reasoning, the only precedent being set right now is the county being able to take money from a private HOA and fund public projects and then refuse that money when it is brought to light to refund it to us. The county has agreed to pay about 1/6 of what they owe, $4,600 out of almost $29,000. We, the homeowners, will not allow this to be swept under the rug. We, the homeowners, and the HOA board look forward to further discussion and proper resolution of this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening.
Good evening. My name is Benita Davenport, 410 Athens Avenue. I am also here on as representation for the community for the community center in Rolling Ridge. Definitely, I was here last month, spoke to how long I've been in Athens, and that area has long been overdue for a community center. So definitely getting all ears on the matter and also all efforts on the matter so that we can actually start moving the meter forward and having a tangible conversation around getting some much needed information behind it, but also support behind getting this ball rolling. As my peers stated, there's a lot of brilliant children in the community that don't have the resources that other communities may have. I hear so many things on the agenda being spoken from COVID concerns or vaccinations, this, that, and the third, but I think when we are all doing quarantine in our wonderful homes, we never take a time to step out and say what these community or residents have to experience in a shutdown. If you were to think about that through for a resident in Rolling Ridge, then I challenge you to challenge me that a community center is not needed. With that notion, I just ask that y'all really dig deep and think about how long this has gone without and start really making actionable steps towards having this conversation. Again, I don't cross T's, I don't always dot I's, I speak from the heart, and if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, then obviously we don't relate. But the community center is much needed, and I'm in support for being present as best as I can to speak to those who are interested in helping get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I am Diane Elizabeth Dunstan, MD, medical doctor, FAAP, Fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I have been a doctor for 40 years, and I am so excited to still be in Athens-Clarke County, serving the community. And the good thing is that I can do it mostly as a volunteer, which is important, especially because my goal is to make sure that those who can't afford services or who are afraid of the health system have someone who understands, looks like them, and will take care of them like she takes care of her own family. So we have been meeting with Clarke County School District. We are so excited. The neighborhood leaders reached out to us to say, would you vaccinate the children? Absolutely. The problem is when you are trying to reach people for vaccinations, they need to be educated and trust you. Trust is earned. And so we are going to do the vaccination clinics on the 20th and the 21st. The reason we have appealed for incentives is because it's all out in the community. Some people get $100, some don't, and the like. We're trying to make things fair. It's not about the money, though. It's about saving lives. And we're not just putting shots in arms. And I told the school district this. I am serious about the health and well-being of our children. And we're going to do it right if we do it, and fairly. And we can make a difference. We need to keep our kids in school. We have a lot of makeup to do. We have to embrace them. They're happy to see me back in the school. I'm happy to be there for them. Help us, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening?
Hello, everyone. My name is Venetia Kadamori. I live on 131 East Broad, so I think that's District 3, and I'm here to speak about a reproductive justice commission. So this past Sunday, me and a couple of other organizations, both on campus and off, hosted a march for reproductive justice, and we had a great turnout, like close to 100 people, probably more, showed up to march for this important cause. And some of our demands included, obviously protesting what's happening in Texas, but also to push for a reproductive justice commission locally. So before I explain what an RJ commission is, I want to clear up what reproductive justice is for some of y'all who don't know the framework. Sister Song defines reproductive justice as the right to personal bodily autonomy, the right to have children, the right to not have children, and the right to parent those children in safe and sustainable communities. So under this framework, any issue is essentially a reproductive justice issue. Racial justice, environmental justice, any issue that you as commissioners are personally passionate about could fall under this framework. So we need a reproductive justice commission. What a commission would look like would be essentially a body of experts in healthcare, policy, government, and, with a passion for reproductive rights, who would be able to, provide research and recommendations for y'all to consider as the county commission. There's one in Atlanta that was established, I think, a year ago, and they're starting to make these recommendations. So why we need a commission? Because the community wants one. We've been working on this issue for months. I know it feels a little recent because you probably only, heard about the march on Sunday, if even that, but we've been working on this since like March. So we've distributed a survey in the community. We've gotten almost 300 responses, not just in support of the commission, but also with specific details about what they want the commission to address. We've phone banked and text banked thousands of people. We've met with some of the commissioners here and like even Mayor Gertz. And so, some of y'all are probably wondering like what a commission can do. There's a whole plethora of things that local government can do in terms of protecting reproductive justice. So, some policies that you could potentially consider would be like paid parental leave for city employees, providing free menstrual products in city buildings. That's just a couple, but those are two of the ones that we're interested in. But also, there's a whole toolkit I can send to y'all if y'all are interested in terms of like all the different policies that the local government can do. And I also just want to highlight why this is important now more than ever. Obviously, some of y'all have heard what's happened in Texas in terms of the extremely restrictive abortion ban that's passed there. This is not uniquely happening in Texas. This has happened all over the South. Georgia already passed a bill, HB 481, which is in the appeals process and is likely, going to stand with the current composition of the Supreme Court. Apart from that, there's also a crisis in terms of all the crisis pregnancy centers that are being funded with state money. There's a lot in Athens already who are providing misinformation in regards to what people can do in terms of family planning. And then also, so, I hope that y'all consider my recommendation. I just realized I ran out of time, but we have more people speaking, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening.
My name is Joseph Schmucker. I live at 287 Fairview Street, and I'm here to speak on behalf of my neighbors in District 2. I wasn't actually intending to come to this podium tonight until about 3 hours ago when I was having a conversation in my neighbor's driveway on Warren Street. And we were talking about some general things in the neighborhood, talk about how you're doing and all those platitudes. But eventually it came down to a conversation about her taxes. She had just gotten her property tax statement recently, and her taxes went up from $1,000 to $1,200 a month. A year, excuse me. And that got me, I've been talking about this issue of a moratorium, a tax moratorium for senior citizens in District 2 especially, that are being pushed out by the land rush of developers that is happening right now. And the more and more that property prices go up in this community, the more and more, of course, the taxes go up. And for those that have been living in this community for most of their lives and have built this community, they're under the gun right now to try to afford to live in the very place that they've lived all their lives. And I went back to the house after this conversation with my neighbor, and I looked at my own taxes to see how much I clipped up in the last couple of years. And between 2020 and 2021, my taxes have gone up by 12.5%. Now, that's quite a big number, actually. And the previous year, I could say it was a similar ratio. But when I heard my neighbor, Miss Mary, saying that her taxes went up by nearly 20% in a single year, I just was aghast. How does anybody afford that kind of increase when you're on a fixed income, when you have to pay for meals, you have to pay for the upkeep of your shelter, you have to pay for medicine? What is she going to sacrifice in order to stay in her home? So I implore this commission to consider the idea of initiating a moratorium on fixed income individuals in my neighborhood, because they are truly under the gun, and they're going to be pushed out and nobody's going to notice. And I really thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Schmucker. Evening.
Hi, my name is Sophia DeLuca. I'm a resident of 370 South Pope Street, and I'm also a student at the University of Georgia. I'm also here, like Venetia, to ask you today to please consider creating a Athens Reproductive Justice Commission, like the one in Atlanta, to address the needs of our community. I believe that it's really important to establish this commission because as a community, we need to take steps to ensure that all aspects of healthcare, including reproductive healthcare, are accessible and protected. The commission would be able to make policy recommendations from experts in reproductive justice, community members, and advocates in the community. And I think that would be extremely important and benefit all community members. And the Athens Reproductive Justice Coalition that Venetia mentioned earlier is starting a month-long campaign to advocate for the establishment of this commission. And I just wanted to mention that I believe Commissioner Parker has the information for the Athens Reproductive Justice Coalition if others are interested in learning more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Evening.
Hello. My name is Tori Reagan. I live at 440 Baldwin Street. I am here tonight besides the fact that I'm in excruciating pain right now because I have a chronic illness. But the reason I'm here is nothing brings me more pain than the fact that I am witnessing those with a uterus lacking the reproductive health care that is necessary for them to live a quality life, okay? To access abortion, one has to drive all the way to Lawrenceville, arrange childcare, get off of work, and let's not even mention the costs surrounding abortion. I ask today that you do not look at this as a moral issue. Look at this as a public health and economic issue. If you witnessed the march on Sunday, you would know that there's many in the community calling for this commission as well. The commission could establish public policy that is friendly towards reproductive freedom, push for more sex education and access for birth control. We could provide low-cost childcare for those who may need to travel for an abortion. We could provide paid parental leave for government employees that choose to have children. And we could also help those who need to travel for an abortion or maybe, going to do so due to poverty. In most cases, women are accessing abortion because of poverty reasons. If they have trouble getting through those financial barriers, imagine the financial barriers that they are facing once they have the child. These barriers not only attribute to the economic inequality that we see in our community, and you guys cannot pretend it's there. Go drive a little bit down this way, and you will see how the economic inequality is in our community. If you care about the citizens in our community and you care about their quality of life, please consider establishing a commission for reproductive health care. It is essential for the lives of our citizens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on any item not on the agenda tonight? Evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Sahana Ramesh, 2056 Black Oak Drive, and I am also a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Georgia. I am here, along with many of my peers, to plead to each and every one of you to consider the creation of the Athens Reproductive Justice Commission. This will address several reproductive needs in our community, and to uphold reproductive freedoms, it is pertinent that we create this now. To me personally, it is important we create this is just one of many issues, destigmatize reproductive needs, such as access to abortion care, menstrual products and contraceptives, to help empower clinics, to educate the public of all of a person's options when it comes to pregnancies, and to allow for maternal health care that is accessible and affirming of mine and others' gender. It is also important to note that I and many others in this community believe in the freedom of choice and its importance in our democracy. I would especially like to see the right of choice not only upheld, but empowered in our Athens government. Reproductive justice affects every single person, as Venetia said earlier. It is also about creating safe and sustainable communities for all of us, as well as for future generations of Athens citizens. I believe that the creation of this commission will also set a great example for other local governments, as well as the state government of Georgia, to consider doing the same, and to uphold the reproductive freedoms that have been guaranteed to us and should not be taken away. Thank you again for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Gehring. I am a resident of 140 Griffith Street, and I am here tonight to address a general trend which I noticed specifically this evening in discussions on several agenda items. This trend is concerning the allocation of decision-making authority between elected officials of the local government and non-elected staff. On one agenda item tonight, I heard debate among commissioners about the purchase of several hundreds of thousands of dollars of police vehicles, specifically police SUVs. I heard the argument made that this should be a simple vote, that the thing that the police was asking for obviously should be given to them because they are the experts of their own department and everyone should listen to them. I later heard debate on a proposal from Central Services regarding the construction of a public restroom. And I heard in response to this proposal from staff that they should go back to the drawing board and find some ways to cut costs because they are not the experts of their own department and they can't be trusted, essentially. I do believe, in general, that non-elected staff should be allowed to do their jobs, that they have been chosen for their expertise, and that that expertise should be valued. As with many things, I believe that the police force should be an exception to this general rule. Why should they be an exception? Because they are the only department who is authorized to kill people. And today they were given several new deadly machines for which they cannot be held accountable for using personally. In the future, I would like to see this commission take this into consideration and to consider that oversight of police spending is one of the most important things that this body can do for public safety, whereas oversight of the provision of general services is best left to those who are experts at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak to any item of general interest? All right, hearing none, we will come back. Just a couple of quick notes for myself. Want to note to commissioners, I'm not assigning this item tonight, but an item that I was in discussion with former Commissioner Neesmith prior to the pandemic was some revision to our sign ordinance in which there may be some trade-off or reduction of the number of billboards with the opportunity for some of the remaining ones to have electronic illumination, and so I'll be providing some more information to you about that in the coming weeks. And then secondly, just a calendar note, it appears that on the 29th of October at the Morton Theater will be the Athens, Georgia premiere to the sequel to Athens GA Inside Out, Red Turns to Blue, featuring none other than Commissioner Parker in her guise as lingua franca. So be looking for that the evening of the 29th. So exciting stuff. Manager Williams, anything tonight?
No, sir.
Attorney Drake?
No, sir.
All right. I'll go ahead and begin with Commissioner Thornton and work back to Commissioner Davenport. Reverse order.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm sometimes trying to get ready for the meetings are very stressful for me. But I do hope that this commission heard the concerns of speakers tonight that talked about the marginalized communities that are always overlooked or underfunded. I heard about the taxes with the HOA. It has really, really made me feel better that other people are speaking up about things that they are dealing with daily than me just always harping on it. So I really wanted to commend everybody that spoke tonight. I hope that we will find a way to make these kind of conversations bubble up from the bottom like our mayor talks about. Because the marginalized, underserved communities are going to keep being marginalized, underserved if we just look at certain issues and we're not intentional in trying to lift all people up. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
I just want to thank everyone who came out to speak tonight on all items of the agenda. I know it's hard to get up there and speak, and I appreciate people sharing their words. Gives me something to think about and reflect on, and I appreciate that very much.
Commissioner Hu?
I'll echo the thanks for people who stuck around through all of our deliberating to speak. I think that's important, and you spoke to important things. I would love to see this body find a way forward on the reproductive justice front, whether that's establishing a commission, which I think is a valid and worthy ask that they're making, or wrapping in what would be the work of a commission perhaps elsewhere into another body we've already got. I do think that that would be a useful thing for us to do as soon as possible, especially considering state laws that are likely to come down the pike. I would also like to share with those who spoke, especially about low-income needs, that we've had on our ask of the state delegation 2 years in a row, and I think are very likely to have again, an ask for a floating homestead exemption. The term floating homestead exemption is basically a catch-all term for homestead exemptions that are variably applied, and in this case, we would be applying it for low-income homeowners, where there would be a property tax freeze for people who are low-income, regardless of their age or status, that would freeze them at that rate until and unless their income changes. Unfortunately, we're unable to pass that all on our own. We need the state delegation to approve it. So contact your state delegation and let them know that you'd like to see it, because we would certainly like to see it. And the last thing I'd just like to do is reiterate and ask of you, Mayor Gertz, to consider assigning to our committees a living wage policy and a review of the potential use of impact fees. And I do see the living wage policy as especially important. I'm sure budget talks will be around the corner before we know it, and finding a way to avoid having to have the same conversation we had this past budget cycle over and over again as the cost of living goes up, and instead encoding that in our policy, I think would be a great thing for us to do for our workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Benson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to Commissioner Hull for bringing up the low-income homestead exemption. Let's keep working towards that. I guess I am a little bit, just to be honest, a little bit frustrated. And I know Commissioner Thornton has brought this up, asking staff, but that the Clarke County School District received, I looked it up here, is receiving $48.5 million in American Rescue Funds. And so I really hope and encourage that them to put some of that money towards vaccine incentives also, just even a percentage of that to help get their students done. I mean, if they're unable or unwilling to do that, I guess, then I guess I would be willing for the county to do that. But I would love to see us be able to work in tandem with the school district to be incentivizing vaccines to all of our residents. To the Lantern Walk situation, been working with the attorney's office to try to find a way for us to make that right in whatever way we possibly can legally. And I am committed to continuing that, and I believe this entire body will be, so we'll keep working on that. I also want to thank Assistant Manager Nikki Jones, Assistant Attorney Sherry Hines, and the Inclusion Officer Director Crystal Coburn for attending the District 5 Town Hall last week on the non-discrimination ordinance. I was extremely impressed, and I think basically It was recorded, and there's a video online now, and it basically kind of explains how the NDO works and how people can register complaints. And I was so impressed with our staff to be able to articulate it so well to make it accessible for everyone. So I hope that video can be shared widely so people can find out how to use the NDO and make sure that if they are discriminated against, they know how to file a complaint. And the next town hall is going to be on the Police Civilian Oversight Committee recommendation that came out of the Government Operations Committee that will be coming before this body soon. And that town hall will be on October 26th at 5:30 p.m., also virtually. And then I really appreciate all the District 5 residents who've been coming out to the District 5 cleanups. And also Commissioner Houle has joined us for the last two. And the next one for that will be at Jefferson Road and South Homewood Drive on October 23rd at 10 a.m. So welcome everyone to come out to that and take part. That's all I got.
All right, Commissioner Lee.
Yeah. I just want to speak to the folks who are advocating for the community center. That this is definitely a need in that community, and that's a big reason why I advocated for Holland Park to be included in the TAD, because that's a potential funding source for that kind of amenity. I plan to reach out to these folks to ask them to speak with leisure services staff so we can get a clear idea of what that kind of project might look like, what the costs might be, and what mechanisms we might have to move it forward, either through TAD or through ARP, because we did discuss in our retreat when we talked about those American Rescue Plan funds, we discussed about youth development facilities and programs. And that area is certainly in need of that kind of center and programs. So I'll be reaching out to some folks about that. I want to speak briefly to the folks who were here about the Reproductive Justice Commission. I'd like to reach out to them as well, and I believe Commissioner Myers or Parker can give me some contact information, because I did do an investigative journalism piece when I worked for Flagpole way back in the 90s, and found out some interesting things about the abortion services or lack thereof in Athens-Clarke County as it relates to our local hospitals. So I look forward to those conversations.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you. I'm back. Hi, everyone. I wanted to say for posterity, as Jean encouraged me, that my son, Asaph Copeland Parker Glaze, was born on August 26th at 9:39 p.m. 20 pounds, 9 pounds, 5 ounces. 21.1 inches. See, I get them mixed up sometimes. And he's very healthy. He's at home with grandma right now. But I wanted to thank all my colleagues for their support during this personal transition, as my constituents as well for their patience. But I'm back. I'm available. I'm eager to get out on a walk with anyone who wants to meet while the weather's still nice. And I also wanted to say that, as a new parent and a person very interested in reproductive rights, I think that I want to show my appreciation for the speakers that came through this evening, and hope that, as Commissioner Houle stated, we can find a way forward with regards to local policy around reproductive autonomy and empowering folks locally, be that through the Human Relations Commission that's coming forward in November, or through the establishment of a standalone commission. I think that's really important work, and I would love to see us formally engage more advocates in our community by establishing commissions like these, akin to Mayor Gertz's youth commission, perhaps developing ones around gun violence prevention or youth development, some of these topics we're recurringly hearing about in the community, to formalize how folks can be in conversation with us around these issues that are really important to them. And I think reproductive justice is a great place to start. So hope that's something that we can continue to think through and figure out a path forward on. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mr. Parker. Commissioner Davenport, take us home.
Welcome back, Parker. Nice to have my companion next to me. This week is Mental Health Week. I highly advise people, just to get a mental health check. I think it's very important. I think there are a lot of people who walk around Athens who have mental health issues and don't know about it. Just don't be ashamed. And finally, Chandler Park will have its dedication October 14th in Winterville at 4 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Davenport, second from Commissioner Parker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we stand in recess. Thanks, everyone.